I think that they more want to work their philosophy on you, like most of the young faculty and folks that are not expecting them to at least not less than I've never been a drink where you can see the systems. Yeah, I haven't had this. I always avoid there. So like that I was like designing. But it wasn't really anything. It was just like building density, center, but it's like making a design center. Oh wait, there's the one that was quite
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's now 6 p.m. and we're going to call this meeting to order.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to give a couple of announcements first for the group. On June 8th, there's an Old National, for the group there, on June 8th, there's an Old National Highway LCI meeting. So we wanted to invite you all to that. It is at the Diamond Hall and Conference Center starting at 6 p.m. So what that LCI project is a master planning effort to identify what you want to see along that corridor now and 20 years into the future. And that helps us from a policy perspective when different zoning cases and things come before us, if they're compliant with those different plans or not. That is how we recommend from a staff perspective, but it's an opportunity for you to give your vision for that area of the community. So we want to invite you there and encourage you to attend that. What day? That is June 8th at 6 p.m. at the Diamond Hall and Conference Center. And there will be promotions going out on social media, but we want to take this opportunity to let you guys know about that. I also want to introduce Mr. Derek Holt. He is the new CBRA director. So he's here tonight for his very first planning here. And lastly, for the commission, you guys all have what are called these are to assist you in identifying motions. So they should walk you through by page the different possible motions that you might want to make, and based on they also request whether or not an applicant has requested a withdrawal, so that you have those easily at your fingertips. If you're looking for any kind of denial criteria, those things are also provided at the end of the packet. Thank you.
Once again, good evening to 6. Now 6 p.m. Thank you for attending this evening's planning and zoning commission meeting. This planning board is made up of an 8-member panel. It is comprised by mayor and council, who has appointed 7 districts and 1 at-large seat. So tonight we'll be hearing recommendations on the rezoning uses, permits, and concurrent variances, application, comprehensive land use plan map, and amendment to zoning resolution. This is a very important part of this announcement. Citizens may speak for or against a zoning issue, and each side will have up to 10 minutes total to present this case. Understanding that there may be someone that want to speak on a particular case. We're only allotted 10 minutes for those speakers to be heard. So be careful of your time when you're coming up to speak, because others want to come behind you and present their case as well. So tonight's virtual meeting, you may enter your comments and questions in the planning and zoning email at planning@cityofsouthfulton.ga.gov. Again, the Planning Commission recommendations will be forwarded to the city's mayor and council for final decision on the fourth Tuesday of next month. And again, this is a planning commission that sends recommendations to mayor and council. This is not the final decision. You have to go before mayor and council for that to take place. Just want to make that understanding clear. So with that being said, we will proceed with the items on the agenda. Staff, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Alvin Reynolds,
Here.
Mr. Rodney Hagley,
Here.
Mr. Keith Perry,
Present.
Mr. Shannon Jones, Ms. Janai Walters, present. Ms. Rachel Williams, present. Ms. Paulette Devon, Ms. Tamika Weatherly, present. Chairman Talbot.
We will proceed with the approval of the minutes from last month, April 27th. Hopefully all commissioners have had a chance to go over those minutes, and I entertain the motion for approval of those minutes.
Commissioner Walters, I make the motion to approve the minutes with one correction. And that's on page 2, still in the publication. Otherwise.
Mr. Hadley, I'm saying.
We have to move in second. Any further discussion on the minutes? So let's make sure we get those.
Point of information, Chairman, could you please say that again with the correction one?
Well, the correction's on page 2, Commissioner, my name is still corrected.
Yes.
The third bullet.
So much. We're item on the agenda is old business. We have none listed. So we'll move right into the new business. Okay. Staff, would you please present the first case? I'm sorry. We'll be a little fast tonight. Get out of here. We probably move the second and staff call the vote.
Mr. Rodney Hadley.
Aye.
Mr. Keith Perry.
Aye.
Mr. Shannon Jones. Ms. Janai Walters. Ms. Rachel Williams. Ms. Paulette Devon. Ms. Tamika Weatherly.
No, I was not here. But for this meeting.
Chairman, that motion passes.
So now we're into the new business.
So, hi everyone, thanks so much for coming out tonight. I wanted to just let you all know that for our next meeting in June, council schedule is going to be a little different. So we're going to be doing the public hearing for council and the council meeting where they vote together on June 14th. I believe the time is at 4 p.m. And of course, that information will be on our webpage so that you're able to be aware of those public hearings and attend meetings as well. So our first case tonight is one that we've heard before. It's the request for rezoning on Bethsaida Road and Bethsaida Drive in District 7. And again, staff's recommendation and approval with staff conditions. So the petitioner is requesting a rezoning. Currently, the site is zoned AG1 and C1, and the applicant would like to rezone to R5. The original request was for 95 single-family homes. The applicant has reduced that number to 85. Regarding the future land use map, this application was submitted last year before the future land use map changed. And so there's a small part of it that was not in compliance with the future land use plan that was submitted, that we had when this was originally submitted, but now we have a new plan and the application is wholly in compliance with the new plan. And we'll look at those maps in a second. This is an example of where it is. It's the aerial shot. You can see it's right at the city boundary, at the intersection of Vestator Road and Vestator Drive. The area to the west, the east of this is Clayton County, so that's not a part of South Fulton. So on the map on the left is the zoning map. You can see that it was zone H1, which is the green area. There was a small part of it that was zone C1. Back in the 80s, the property owner wanted to have a small shop there. And then on the right is the old land use plan. You can see that there's a small part of it that was in the community live work zoning district. And R5 was not a part of that future land use plan, but the majority of it, which is the orange part, was suburban neighborhood 2, and R5 was a part of that. And then this is our new comprehensive plan. And you can see the purple part of community live work. It is not included in this. This is a site plan that kind of shows the outline of the site. It has the homes on there. There are 2 pocket parks that are included. There's a stream that runs kind of through the center of the site. And then there are entrances on Vestator Road and Vestator Drive. The applicant has provided some sample elevations, and we are expecting that if this is approved, the homes will be built similarly to this. And this is a summary of the meetings that we've had on this previously. It's been deferred a few times, and the applicant has gone back to make some minor changes. And this is a summary of what has changed since the last meeting, and these are reflected in the staff conditions. There is a recommendation that the front of the homes are brick and stone. Of course, the subdivision regulations already had a requirement that anything owned in common would be part of a mandatory homeowners association, but we added that condition here. There were some concerns about whether or not how we could ensure that the amenity area was built to completion. And so we added a condition that says no more than 40% of the certificates of occupancy for the home can be issued until the phase 1 amenity is completed. And then we said no more than 70% of the certificate of occupancy for the home can be issued before phase 2 amenity is completed. So that's kind of our way to make sure that the amenity areas are completed before the home is built out. We are moving towards the future, renewable energy and everything. So we said that each home would have at least 1 electric vehicle charging station in the garage, and these homes are all required to have 2-car garages. There was a change to the side entry garages. So we're requiring side entry garages on corner lots where it's feasible. There were some concerns about whether or not there was sewer capacity for the site. And so kind of as a way to make sure that there is a sewer study done, we are recommending that a sewer capacity report be provided at the time of land disturbance permit to the satisfaction of the city here before that land disturbance permit can be issued. And that will, of course, happen in conjunction with Fulton County, who manages our sewer system. There were also some concerns about erosion control and the stream buffer. And so we're also recommending that they do a hydrology study and erosion control plan to be submitted at the time of land disturbance permit and to be approved by the city engineer. So that's kind of a way of making sure that there's a set plan in place before any dirt is moved around. And also there was some concerns about the adjacency of this site to the Lake Royale subdivision. And so we're recommending that lots 38 through 76, those are the ones that are adjacent to Lake Royale, that those sites have a 6-foot high privacy fence that, you can't be seen through. And that concludes our report for this item.
Thank you, staff. We now hear from the applicant at this time.
Good evening, Michelle Battle Law, 3562 Haversham at North Lake, Georgia 30084. I know you have a long agenda tonight, so I will not be redundant. I think staff has done a great job pointing out changes since the last presentation that we had, so I will not belabor the point. I think the main thing is that you all were concerned at the last meeting about the lack of meeting opposition showing up for the meeting the last time. We went back and had another follow-up meeting with the community to make sure that they were aware of the changes that have been presented by staff. With regards to probably one last piece is that the fencing along the perimeter of the site is pointed out by staff along the lots indicated. Was a request by the community to have that privacy fence put up. That would require us to encroach slightly into the stream buffer, and so we did submit for an administrative variance to put that fencing along that perimeter to ensure that the privacy of the individuals. Also, there was concern about erosion issues with regards to the stream, and that came up again during the course of the meeting. And as the engineer indicated, and as I had mentioned at the last meeting, those homes that have downspouts that are coming out into the rear yards of those lots, that we will be piping that water into the detention pond as a way of bypassing it, sheet flowing to the edge of the stream buffer. So that is another way of just trying to reduce the erosion that they are having on the other side of the stream. It should be noted that many of their homes on the Lake Royale side were built at a time when the stream buffer ordinance was not as vigorous as it is now. And so the stream buffer buffer allowed them to be in a spot with their homes they would not be allowed to do that at this point in time. That buffer you all added, in fact, 100 foot, it's a total of 100 feet now. Previously, I believe it was about 50 to 75. And so many of their homes are actually located today. They'd be allowed to be in that particular space. So I think that is also to the erosion along the stream. We will not have that issue. We are staying 100% out of the stream, with the exception of having that fence on just a few of the lots at the rear in order to put the fencing in requested. So we would respectfully request a recommendation of approval based on the staff's conditions, and to the extent there's any tweaking, we can certainly address that with the staff. Again, to not belabor the point, we would ask for a recommendation.
Right, this time, staff, we will entertain a motion to open public comment on this case.
Commissioner Hadley, I'll make a motion to open public comment.
Probably moved in second, any further discussion? Hearing none, staff, would you call the vote, please?
Mr. Rodney Hadley,
Aye.
Mr. Keith Perry,
Aye.
Mr. Shannon Jones, Ms. Janai Walters, Ms. Rachel Williams, Ms. Paulette Devon, Ms. Tamika Weatherly. That motion passes.
Thank you so much, staff. At this time, we'll enter into public comment. Staff, are there any comments in favor of this petition to be read or heard?
No, sir.
I'm sorry.
No,
No,
no, sir.
are there any against?
Yes, we've got one card speaking against. That's Mr. Michael Venable.
Behalf of the whole regional level, this is not good for this area. We come back and you will see how the community has developed because of the types of houses that are in the community. You've seen social media now. Oh, Langston Hughes did so great. Westlake did great. But you didn't hear anything about that. You heard hardly nothing about Creekside. We are not attracting the diversity of residents need to be in this area to make sure that our retail, commercial, educational, and social development is appropriate. You know why? Because every single time we come to this area, oh, we gotta look at affordable housing. Oh, we gotta make sure the police and fire have somewhere to stay. But you will never, ever, ever hear that on the other side of the city. I came back and put some things to try to make this project work. And I'll read those out to you. We're requiring that all the homes have full masonry fronts, a minimum of 90%. And that the face area 4-foot water table on the sides and the rear. Because this is near a creek and a flood zone, this is totally appropriate. We're requesting only 47 houses or 40% to have 3-side masonry. You know, they talk about, well, you know, somebody wanted that, you know, they can request it. But guess what? If I go to a community and there's 2 or 3 houses in there, you're not gonna do it. The only way to have that come forth, you have to have a solid, substantial amount of homes that somebody wants to be in before you can attract the kind of residents that need to be there. This will provide a diversity of housing. Like I said, unless there's a significant amount, the diversity is not solidified. This condition has got to be more than an option, it has to be a full requirement. We're requiring that 25% or 21 houses have side or rear entry garages. This adds value to the subdivision. These homes are already constructed and marketed for small lots. This loss of ground area is going to be negligible because they're already small. When he talks about there's no turnaround space. For the lots that are narrow, you can do a rear entry garage. We keep ignoring getting around what needs to be done, but we don't want to do that. We're requesting that all kitchens, bathrooms, laundry, and mudrooms have stone countertops and tile flooring. When you go look at the magazines of houses that they'll be marketed on the other areas, that is a standard feature. And I'm talking, you know, with those in there, that's incredible that we don't want to do that. We're requesting that all first level homes have hardwood flooring except for the kitchen, bathroom, and mudrooms. Just the first level. We're doing something to have some variety in the subdivision that does not exist in the area that we are. We're requesting that all homes have floor and ceiling molding throughout the entire house. And also that all homes should have a deck or a patio. Compared to other housing developments that you've seen now and in the future, none of these are unreasonable. None of them. I only talked about 40%, 47% of homes being 3-sided brick. We're only talking about 25% of the homes having side or entry garages. We're purposely trying to make this community cheap to where my schools, my retail, my social development will never go where it needs to be. due to the fact that these lots are small, and there's really no amenity package. You talking about, I got a pocket park or whatever in there. There's no building to be in. There's no pool or tennis court. I don't like it, but that's where your negotiation and your negotiation and your comes in. Okay, if you want to do that, then you need to have a better quality of home so that when I get there, that someone has the amenities and the wherewithal to do what needs to be done. The only reason you should approve this condition is that all of these conditions are put in that condition in your motion, including the ones from staff. We can no longer continue to come back and just rubber stamp areas to make them look bad. And then somewhere else will jump up and down and, oh, it's great over there. So now that you create pockets of exclusivity and other pockets of property, that has got to stop.
So there any comments of this that were sent into the email? You will entertain the motion to close public comment this time. Probably moved in second, third discussion. Hearing no staff, all the roll, please.
Mr. Rodney Hadley. Mr. Keith Carey. Mr. Shannon Jones. Ms. Janai Walters. Ms. Rachel Williams. Ms. Paulette Devon. Ms. Monica Withers. That motion passes.
Public comment is now closed. At this time, we will entertain questions for the petitioner and or if there are any questions for the public from the commission, we will do it at this time. For chair recognized, Commissioner Perry.
I got a question for staff, but the recommendation of the side entry garages on lots that are 9,000 feet or bigger, how many lots would that affect?
I'm not sure of the exact number of lots. Yeah, I don't have the exact number.
There's several lots that are much larger than.
Yeah, and I guess I do have a question for that. Yeah, I asked before about adding the requirement about adding break to a certain number of homes on maybe 3 sides break for a certain number of homes. Is the applicant open to that if we included that as a condition for a certain number of homes?
We indicated that we were willing to do the strict water table and to offer for homes as an option, and that's what the property. We did consider that.
Talked about going back to the community, only a little bit about when that meeting was, with the participation in that meeting.
We did have a meeting a couple of weeks ago. We had about 3 individuals from the community that showed up for the meeting. They did have a number of questions in regards to mainly the traffic related issues. They also had questions again about the erosion along the creek. There was a lot of concern about that, as well as the privacy fence. That's why I emphasize those 2 things. They seem to be satisfied by the answers concerning the sewer issues that are over there. and that would be handled through the LDP test as well as the hydro study. There wasn't really a lot of pressure with regards to the brick requirement and the interiors, and we did have conversation, including the staff particularly about the interior request. And I'll let staff respond to that themselves with regards to the enforceability of those types of requirements. But at the end of the day, we left the meeting feeling like we had done basically all that we could do to make sure that we had a viable project. It's not that DRB would not sell, like I said, a 3 or even a 4-sided brick home within this community. But we are already at a price point that's in excess of 320 in the mid 300s. On this, we are in the middle of a housing crisis. We believe that these houses are substantial houses, certainly are higher price points than the homes that are in the surrounding community. But it's not like we are building homes that are consistent with what's already there. Trying to break them up.
Last question for participation. They were individual lot owners, or was there any associations or other broader communities represented there?
It's the people.
What was the conversation at the public setting?
I think it's just a general concern that the city has not done a lot with regards to transportation issues along our corridor. We certainly are going to be making right-of-way improvements by adding the cell lane, by turning lanes into the community. But I think that there's just kind of a general sense that there's a lot of traffic congestion over in that area, and that they would like to see the city do more to address those issues.
Question. This moved down to 85 from how many?
95, sorry.
95. Okay.
The question I have for you, Ms. Talbot, is that through these proceedings, we talked a lot about the pumping station. And one of the things that was required in the staff report early on was about a letter of agreement with the ones that maintained that privately subdivided station. Was that letter of agreement ever obtained?
We reached out to the city, to the county. The county does not give any type of letters at this point in time. What they've indicated is that they know of no issues with that particular pump station, that they do routine maintenance. They go out to that site every other day, and then they also remotely have monitoring for that particular pump station. It's the Albania pump station that would be in question, and that the only way to get any type of written letter would be during the LDP process, which is why staff put that in. That during the LDP, we'll have to have a sewer capacity letter that would come back. We did have, and I showed in the last meeting, email from the city, from the county, indicating that there was capacity. But even if there's capacity today, the bottom line is when we get ready to build, there has to be capacity then. So we're going to have to go through that review to ensure that there is capacity. And if there's not capacity, we won't be able to go.
Another thing too about the erosion and the fence that is going in those lots there. I honestly don't believe that putting the fence there, excuse the voice, is strong enough to support that erosion factor on this.
The fence isn't really erosion. Let's make sure.
If that's what I'm saying. I understand.
The erosion issue gets addressed by taking the water from the downspouts and moving that into the stormwater detention pond, because what is happening is, particularly like the homes on the other side, when that water is coming off of the downspout, off of the gutters on the homes, it's sheet flowing over into the bank, and that's further eroding the edges of the bank. But on your side, where your community is, most of those homes wouldn't even be allowed to be there because they're in the stream buffer. We won't have any homes in the stream buffer And in addition to that, we'll be piping our water, so it's not hitting up against that stream bank. It's going to be bypassing that and going directly into the stormwater detention pond. The fencing was being placed there because you all asked for privacy.
The thing is about erosion, it's not really from down south coming up home. It's from stormwater, it's from rainwater, it's from water in general. And I know this because we live in Cooper. The most I'm advocate about retaining walls and so forth. But again, I think
There's no retaining wall right now that the engineer believes is required along that berm, but they also have to do the stream buffer and the hydrology study analysis, which will take into consideration the fact that we're in and adjacent to that stream buffer. So the hydrology study has to get done to show that we can not only contain the water, but we're not doing anything to negatively impact that stream. That is a part of that whole process. And so we're not at a space where we have the full technical analysis because we haven't done the hydrology study.
okay. Another thing too, with the traffic, adding the decel lanes is a good thing, of course, we're doing that in our subdivision. But, see, we put a lot of money in the city about doing some things on that single road sector. There was an event last week that really put a heavy traffic jam in that area. And what that indicated was that the added traffic that's going to come from this subdivision is going to be a lot strained on that single road area. And that is that's a big concern about the community as well. I don't think that that is being addressed. I think that's something that the city has to do, and or
Strategy is the basis for denial.
no, it's not a basis for denial, but there's concern of the citizens.
And we recognize that.
Yeah, that's all we ask for, to be recognized.
We can't fix the roadway issue. All we can do is contribute.
What we're
putting in
saying
the
though,
additional
what
ways.
we're saying though is that with this added community, it brings added traffic to the area. That's all we're saying, we want it to be noted. And one other thing too, you're adding, extra power for electric cars. And that voltage is, I think, 280 volts. 240 volts. Oh, every home will have those.
Yes.
Did you have some type of study done from the electrical grid or whatever to indicate that that would be a strain?
Anything that, if we bring that in, it requires some upgrade in the electrical, really that's something we'll have to deal with Georgia Power. It turns out that Georgia Power or whoever the electric provider is out there, that can't be done, and we'll have to address that. But it's our understanding we would be able to put that in, and to the extent, I think it was already doing some upgrades in that area. And I recall from the comments he's been the perspective on the property. So it's my understanding that there has been some conversation about that. But that they obviously are not going to allow for that to go into the rest of the community. Certainly, there should be movement in that direction to have that type of capacity. We are moving into, a time when electric cars are going to become more prevalent. And so that those upgrades, if they haven't been made.
I would just say that a lot of this development, probably the other, but there are a lot of unanswered questions. There are a lot of things that have not been done, and there are a lot of things that this particular petition is based on what's going to be done and need to be done when it's either voted on approval or not. I, for one, would love to see these things in order before you make a conscious decision on which way you want to go. And so with that being said, if there is not any other questions or comments. Commissioner.
Michael, I've got a question for staff. This particular petition has been for us 5 times. And I do recall early on that there was more community participation. How does that get factored into, there's a lot of community exhaustion at this point. It would appear that there's one position here for denial. But there has been a history of the community coming out and providing comments related to this. So where does that get factored into, these decisions?
Yes, ma'am, definitely. So we make decisions based on our documents and policies that were adopted by our council. So we make decisions based on the future land use plan, economic development plan, transportation plan.
And so your recommendation.
Yeah, and so that goes back to basis that we use for making recommendations. We do listen to communities. We do take their comments into consideration, and we do sometimes ask petitioners, like, hey, is there any leeway in this? Is there any way that we can compromise? Are there conditions that we can add? And we normally give those to the applicant, where the applicant will come to us to ask what our opinion on something is, but we always base our recommendation on our policy document.
I understand in terms of the staff recommendation. I'm saying from the board commission here, community participation is an important part of us making decisions, as well as, looking at the staff recommendations. But when those comments and the perspective of the community get sort of shelved, we don't have that to refer back to. It's not in our packet in terms of the history comments to make sure that these things have been addressed or in some form in review. So I got concerned about that. There's one point, the one position of opposition, which I don't think really reflects truly what has been presented from the communities over these sessions.
So as the recommending body, you're also in criteria that we use as staff. So that is also what you use to gauge and assess and make your recommendation. Now, certainly the public input up until this point has been reflected in the adjustments to the recommendation. Those have been adjusted, I think, probably after each iteration based on the different desires of the public comment. And certainly through public comment that can point out different conditions that exist on the site that maybe weren't observed or identified by or staff. So that's really where it's reflected, is pointing out the different conditions, how they meet that criteria, yes and no, and making adjustments to the conditions from the
Are you suggesting a process improvement where in the staff report currently there is a public representation section? Are you suggesting a process improvement where that section is more expanded or has additional information? Or
I think that something needs to be reviewed related to that, because we think there's a lot of public participation that is not being reflected when we're now, especially after 5 sessions, we've got a lot of participation exhaustion. So there's you said about taking and trusting the staff about the nuances. That's an important part of what we have to review.
Let the new director take a stance at it. So one of the things that Marissa has indicated, and as planners, particularly as we prepare staff reports, we rely on the information that is submitted by the applicant, and we compare that information to what is contained in our policy documents. In this case, as you all know, having gone through an exhaustive process of adopting a comprehensive plan, we look at the comprehensive plan as the orderly growth document that guides the city for the next 20, 25 years. 2035, I think is what it is. And then of course, we look at the other policy documents. In this case, would be zoning ordinance and or any overlay districts. As practitioners of planning and individuals who are engaged in the community, and we want the community to participate, we do consider those comments, but as a means of providing you a staff report so that you, the independent commission, can actually make your recommendations either for an approval or denial or continuance. You then decide based upon the information that we give, including information that is contained maybe in community meetings, on how you are going to make a decision on the project. But from staff's perspective, our specific task and our goal is to really look at this in relation to the public policy documents. And that is one reason why I imagine with so many deferrals, we sense that there were issues with the community being in one perspective and the applicant having an overall vision, and encouraging all of the entities involved to come together to talk about how can we meet in the middle of the road. And I think there have been several attempts. I imagine, having not attended one of these community meetings, that you will still continue to have individuals that have desires how the project can be overall enhanced. And so I think at this point, it comes to a decision from the planning commission, based upon the information that staff has provided and what you have also heard additionally from the applicant of what ultimately the decision and the recommendation is.
Let me also add this too, that, and you are absolutely right, with your comments, that we've got to do a better job in including the public. Because what I'm hearing, and correct me if I'm wrong, that the public comments really doesn't make a difference. Because any development in the city, it affects the public. If you're building something next door to me that is just for profit, just for a lack of time, and it's not built like it should be and so forth, I should be able to raise the concerns about that. And that should be taken into consideration, not just us following some guidelines that's handed down through policy and so forth. So again, how can we enhance that process? And I think that's where something that staff and others need to go back to the table and talk about. So
In planning, we have what we call discretionary items. This is a discretionary item. The issue of a discretionary item versus an item that is permitted by right means that if a particular applicant comes to the city and submits an application for type of use, whatever type of project that's permitted by right, that particular type of project is non-discretionary and does not have to be reviewed by a hearing body. The mere fact that you have a discretionary item means that you, as the discretionary body in this case, and council as the ultimate discretionary body that's going to make the final decision, along with input from the community, will determine the outcome of the project. So I want to make sure it's understood. And as the new director, I will tell you, I am deeply rooted in community engagement. And so the intent is always to have discussions with the community when we have these projects so that everybody can be well informed about how the process is going to work. Planning commissioners, community residents, business owners, whoever you may be, applicant, and all of those representing the entire planning process. So it's a little bit of a misstatement to say that the community doesn't matter. We want the community's input when we have these hearings, when we transmit out these applications, and when we are soliciting comments. We want the community's input. But from staff's perspective, staff has to make a decision, render a decision based upon the policy documents. Now, as a director like you, I have a little bit of discretion to say, I think this needs to play out a little bit further with the community. I might need to convene a meeting with the applicant and those individuals in the community that are still opposing the project, and let's see if we can meet in the middle. Again, sometimes, no matter how many changes the applicant makes, there are some people in the community who may not just like the project. And we have to, at some point, realize that we need to advance the project because after a while it's been submitted, for years now, and we're still kind of kicking the proverbial can down the road.
Yeah,
Still,
not because you,
Yeah.
but as long as things are falling in line with the
Yes,
process.
yep.
And falling in line with, proper development and so forth, they should come together.
Right.
So.
Right.
Culture time, not to cut you off.
Not a problem, not a problem at all, but I wanted to
Just
make,
wanted to make it noted.
yes,
involvement.
Yes. And as director of this department, the community will always be engaged in all of these applications that are coming.
I'll make sure you get that in the notes. Before we go to the vote, we recognize.
One quick question. Applicant made mention of changes, say, three sides or having certain was it, she said that staff could explain it.
Yes, sir. So as I mentioned earlier, we make recommendations based on policy documents. We don't have a policy at this time that dictates the interior finishes of different single family homes or really interior finishes of much at all. You know, there might be something in the fire code that says you need to have a certain wall or a sprinkler or something like that for safety. It might say that the like 4x4s in the house have to be certain width apart for safety, things like that. But in terms of like interior finishes, that's not something that we really have capacity to make recommendations on based on our policy documents.
We think that those type of items that are mentioned, it's just, things that the surrounding community, want to see updates and things of that nature. So, although there are not any policies in place, but, we still have to base our recommendations on the policies that are general.
Okay, I have one question for battle law. In regards to, we said that we've postponed it like 6 times, 7 times, 7 times or 6 times. From the community, did you change things all of those times?
Every time we met with the community, simply to address the issues that they raised.
And what were the
And
changes?
the changes that Marissa went through, this were the last set of changes that we made to address the community. I think it was about 5 or 6 things. I don't know if you can put that slide back up for us from your presentation. Those are all things that we did to try and address. Every time, I understand from my perspective as battle law and how I represent my client, community engagement is a considerable part of what we do. We recognize that, particularly here in the city of South Fulton, that you want us to have that engagement. But we take that engagement very seriously. In fact, you all require us now to send notices out across a swath of people almost a mile. And most of the time, that's over $2,000, $3,000 to even send out the notices, half of which I get back. So this is a daunting task to make sure that we're doing that community participation. And then on top of that, when we get into those meetings, we do have a one Zoom because we find that most of the time we have more people that will participate. So we try to make it as convenient as possible for people to actually attend and participate in those meetings. And half the time the meetings last about an hour and a half, and we have videotapes. So when we do those meetings, we give the community an opportunity to voice their concerns, and we try to address those issues. And every time we come back, we try to update the site plan to address the issues. So the meeting that we had like 2 or 3 times before we came up here, the issue was raised about, for example, getting a letter from Fulton County. Mr. Reynolds said, well, why don't you have a letter? Well, I went to Fulton County because I told the community that I would. I went to Fulton County. I spoke with the person responsible and in charge. He told me I couldn't get a letter. I can't make Fulton County get a letter. He told me I can't get a letter until we actually file an LDP and go through the process. And then they will do their final determination. Because they're not going to tell me today for certain 100% that in 6 months, 8 months, a year, I'm going to have capacity. So he's telling me as of today, it looks like it's fine. Not in writing until you have formally submitted to the county your land development permit. Now, one would say, well, but I'm going to get that letter. I can't get what they won't give me. So what I did is I went back to the community. I showed them the email, I put the name of the person that they in contact. I don't know that anybody called in contact. But at the next meeting we had, after the last deferral you gave me, we went back to the and I gave that information again. I don't know if anybody called or contacted, but all I can do is give the information. That was one issue. The next issue they had was about erosion control in the range. I had the engineer come on to discuss how to address that particular issue, because I had to get educated on it myself. What we did is then we talked with staff. We had a meeting with staff. We tried to do everything to address those questions, and we went back, and then I gave them the information that was given to me by the engineer, by staff, and had the engineer on the phone so that they could ask their questions. We believe that we asked and answered those questions to their satisfaction. That may be why people are not here tonight. I can't assume that. I guess what I don't, what's interesting is that we've been asked, we've done it. It's like, well, there's nobody here in opposition. It may be that we answered their questions to their satisfaction.
So you're talking about this again, like 6 times, and
It's a lot.
we're looking at it, every time we're looking at it, we're not remembering the 6 times until the staff brought. So that's why I asked it. If you kept the record, like you said, revision number 1, revision number 2, like they do on site plans, then that way we'll know what you did address, and the community can know that, okay, we didn't give you 100%, but we gave you 50%.
We have that on
And
the
it's
site
those
plan.
revisions, like she dated each one of those meetings. If we knew on this meeting, we postponed it because of this, on this meeting, we postponed it because of this. It was 5 items, you met 4. I can't see that in there. And I don't think, the commission, the planning commission can see that. We are only coming to me, it looks like this is the first time coming before us until the staff told us it was 6 times or 7 times, whatever.
So the first time was a deferral because of, I think of a publishing issue or something that just came up. When we went back, when we started with the 95 units, we dropped down to the 85.
So where is it, I mean, if you presented your package, you could have presented that like you present, the renderings and stuff and say, okay, it was met this time. This is our list, this is what they asked for. We met 3, they asked for 5. I can't see that in this.
What I can show you are the changes between what was before we got to you all at the last meeting and the other. I don't have a problem putting that up if you all want to see that. But my time, I suspect. But the bottom line is, we did have that information. We do have the site plan up. That was what the staff had indicated in their presentation, because we went over those things with the staff to show the changes that we had made. So that was the list that Marissa gave you. Those were the changes that we made, in addition to the fact that we went and started at 95 units. We dropped to 85. We put in some additional amenity areas on that particular site plan. And then we went to the site plan where we were addressing more of the technical issues that had been asked. There weren't a tremendous amount of changes on the site plan itself. A lot of the issues that the community raised were questions about things like drainage. I can't show you anything different on the site plan about drainage. I can only tell you what it is that the engineer indicated. Same thing with the. So,
and I will say this, and then we'll put forth a motion for a vote on this case. Everything that you submitted to the Labor IL community, it was followed up on. So, and let me just say, thank you for giving them that information and the contacts to talk to, because they were diligently seeking information about their concerns. So they were, it wasn't just the information was given to them and they just said on it. It sounded like this community just opposes this. There are some great concerns about building in wet areas, So with that being said, I'll entertain a motion on this case.
What's the question? I'm so sorry.
Point of order.
I know in the past, we were able to receive commentary from folks via the YouTube channel. Is that an option here from the community, or are we past that?
That's a question for staff.
No, the city has disabled the comment features, not anything that we advertise as a part of a legal acceptance of comments.
Let me add to that too as well. So are they still able to email planning board.
Of course, we receive comments on these petitions quite often. We do read all of them as staff reads them, even if we don't respond to each and every one. We did not advertise that we would be accepting comments in the same email address tonight, and we weren't planning to do that. So that's what I have to say about that.
Okay, we definitely gotta get better at what we do. I entertain a motion. And let me say, this case has been deferred too many times. And I would greatly appreciate it if we could have some movement on this, one way or the other. So with that being said, Commissioners, I entertain a motion to,
Commissioner Hadley. I move to recommend denial, the request to rezone from AG1 to C1 to R5 for constructing 85 single family fee simple homes, as I do not find any of the following criteria as outlined in section 803.06 of the zoning ordinance, number 10. The zoning proposal result in abuse which will or could cause an excessive burdensome use of existing streets, transportation facilities, utilities, and or schools.
you know, second. Second. Probably moving second, any further discussion? Hearing none, staff, please call the vote.
Mr. Rodney Hadley,
Aye.
Mr. Keith Perry,
Okay.
Mr. Shannon Jones.
Aye.
Ms. Janai Walter. Ms. Rachel Williams. Ms. Paulette Devon. Ms. Tamika Weatherly. Chairman, that motion passes.
Thank you so much, staff. Would you please call the next case?
So our next item is at the intersection of Wilkerson Mill Road and Elmo Road. Staff recommendation and approval of staff conditions. So the applicant is seeking to rezone from AG1 to CUP to construct 300 single-family homes across 156 acres. The original proposal was for 312 homes at 2 units per acre, and the updated plan shows a total of 300 homes at 1.92 units per acre. The future land use for the site is rural neighborhood, and the proposal is in compliance with the future land use plan, which recommends a density of 2 units per acre. This is kind of an aerial shot of where it's located. It's at the intersection of Wilkerson Mill and Ono, like I mentioned. Like immediately north to this site is a commercial cemetery. Immediately east is the jurisdiction, I think, of the city of Palmetto. And then on the left here, we have a current zoning map. You can see that it's zoned AG1. And there's another jurisdiction on the other parts of the map that aren't colored. And the future land use map, as I mentioned, everything in South Fulton, the future land use is rural neighborhood. So this is a copy of the site plan. One thing I could mention is that originally the entrance to the north of the cemetery was going to be a full service access, but that was changed to a emergency only access. The site features amenities, including the carpet park and I think a walking trail. There is a stream buffer that goes through the site, and the applicant is planning not to disturb that area. The applicant has submitted some elevations that show what possible facades of the homes will look like. And we have seen this a few times already in March and in April. And this is an idea of what was changed since our last meeting. So originally they had planned for 300 homes, 312 homes. It has been reduced to 300. They slightly increased the minimum square footage. Originally it was 6,240 square feet, and now it's 8,000 square feet. The north entrance, as I mentioned earlier, on Ono was changed to be emergency access, and that's the one immediately above the cemetery. And there were some concerns about light pollution. And so the applicant has agreed to submit a photometric plan that will have to be approved by the director at the time of land service. That concludes my report.
Thank you, staff. At this time, we're going to turn the motion to open public comment.
Second.
Probably moving second, any discussion? Hearing none, staff, to call the roll for open public comment.
Yes, Mr. Rodney Hadley.
Aye.
Mr. Keith Perry.
Aye.
Mr. Shannon Jones.
Aye.
Ms. Janai Walters.
Aye.
Ms. Rachel Williams. Ms. Paulette Devon. Ms. Tamika Weathers.
Now, we will public comment. At this time, we will be hearing from the petitioner.
Shall battle with battle love, 3562 Haversham at North Lake. That's a Georgia 30084. We are here representing Pulte this evening in regards to this proposed project to rezone from AG1 to CUP. She noted that we started this project actually last year. We've been working on this for quite some time. When we started out, our original plan when we first met with the staff was actually for 367 lots. Some of the folks in the community may or may not be aware of that. But when we first came to planning staff and had our pre-application meeting, and there were a number of questions and issues that were raised by the staff that resulted in us amending the site plan to where we were in April of 2022. And we came before you where we actually had dropped to 312 units, which was at a density of 2 units per acre. This is the site plan that you all saw at that time. Since then, we had a meeting with the community where we had further dropped the units to 300. And since that time, trying to continue to address the issues that have been raised by the community, we are now actually at a site plan that has 262 units at a density of 1.68 units per acre. What that does is it drops, again, we drop a total of 50 units from the 312 when we were here with you all last. When we met with the community, we had told them that we had dropped an additional 12. We had dropped an additional 12 units. However, it was very clear that that was not enough units from the community's perspective to make a significant difference. And so we went back since that last meeting and dropped additional units as well. So we're now at 262 units that we're proposing at 1.68 units per acre, which is consistent again with the comprehensive plan for the property. We've got now a total of 35% open space or 55 acres of open space, common area at 4.8. We still have the amenity area that's proposed at the intersection of Wilkerson and Ono Road. And our minimum lot size is 7,800 square feet, although we have a significant number of units that are actually larger than that 7,800 square feet. Also, our minimum lot frontage went up to 65 feet. We recognize here, we put in and are now showing the 100-foot dedicated buffer around the perimeter. We also, as staff has indicated, made an emergency access only off of Ono, which was also requested by the community and one of the responses that we had to the issues that were raised. So you can see the cul-de-sac now on that part, along with the existing lake and the pocket park and the trails going into the rear portion of the site. On the front end of the site, again, we're protecting the wetland areas. We've got the trail located there, the impervious setback, which we are maintaining. And then we've also got the 100-foot vegetative buffer on the south side of the property as well. We've got a passive pocket park located between units 36 and 37. And again, we've got the amenity area at the front with our access from both Ono and Wilkerson being the two primary points of entry into the community. When we look at the overall summary again, this just kind of shows where it is in place. We know there's more development corridor. We know that the city of Palmetto, and while the city of Palmetto can do what it chooses, we understand that the city of South Clinton has a dedication to maintaining much of the character of the area. We also know the changes here, changes, is evident as we're having more and more of the areas where we're in large farmland tracts that are now being sold off either by the heirs of those individuals or by individuals who simply are of the age or of the desire to move on to the property. So that's what we're looking at here. So we've got 156 acres we are seeking to rezone. When we look at one of the projects that we've discussed a number of times, the Erosion project, we wanted to kind of give a comparison of the two communities. The lot count there, on this one actually goes through 12. We've actually dropped that lot count down to again 262. But when we look at it again, bottom line is we're trying to develop a site that we feel is kind of consistent, even though we have fewer lots. You can see from a housing price that our prices are very consistent with what is being proposed within that community. And so, looking at the house designs that are being proposed from the first ones, we've got different textures that we're looking at. Again, what we will be offering whatever siding, if somebody wants a 3 or 4-sided brick home, more than welcome to do that. They are looking to develop a very nice community with both ranch and 2-story homes that will be a part of this community. Staff has recommended approval. We would respectfully request a recommendation of approval as well. We work very hard to work with staff as well as with the community. We recognize that we have people here in opposition, and we also understand that at the end of the day, we may not all be able to agree on the exact configuration and sizing of the lots, but we have done what we can to try and address those issues and to consistently listen and hear the community and to be responsive. And certainly our hope that we may be able to continue to move the project along. With that, I will be here for any questions that you all may have. And we also have Aaron Smith with Pulte is who here with us this evening and can also answer questions. Thank you.
Are there any comments in favor of this petition?
Yes, we've got one more in favor, Mr. Aaron Smith, and we've got 3 minutes and 12 seconds remaining time.
Mr. Smith,
Yes, we've got a total of 7 opposed. The first one being Michael and Jane Shady.
Okay, before you guys come up, again, to the threshold, how many people are speaking? Is this 7? 7. Okay. All right. Just be mindful of the 10-minute threshold. Okay. And that 10 minutes is shared.
Point of information, are we able to do public comments in the order that people arrive?
It should generally be in that order, but I don't know. That's the order of government and staff.
I guess your concern too is that if someone was here earlier and then someone came later, they may not get a chance to speak if that was.
Yeah, I'm asking out of respect for former council member. Just a point of information. I'm wondering, the commission might be open to maybe extending public comment time if and then also giving the applicant additional time if there's a concern that we're going to run out of time, so we don't want to do that.
I think this commission is open to doing that. So. Do you care about the word? No, we don't care about the word.
Do you want to just form a line maybe in the order it came in?
So any of us.
Keep it quiet, so that we can move forward, please. First people come up.
Can we get can the applicant get a copy of that?
There'll be additional copies. Yeah.
Man, you know, the applicant needs a copy of what you passed. For anyone else that may have handouts, please don't approach the commission, just give it to a member of staff, and we will pass it. No, it's okay. We'll pass it out to the commission. Is this it?
Here we go, first people.
Good evening, everyone. I want to start by explaining a place. This is going to be a game changer in the community, and that's what I said. With that, if you put the site plan, the little right thing, the site. That's the one, the white things, the little white boxes on the site plan that you saw earlier is the warehouse. One of those warehouses is on top of Wilkerson Mill subdivision. And the people in Wilkerson Mill subdivision will tell you the terrible things they are experiencing from that year. The one on top of the one up top, the first one, that one would be behind this subdivision, which is unnecessary. Now, the city of South Fulton, we talk about policy. The city of South Fulton's policy is we're going to protect our people. We are not going to put any warehouses anywhere near you. And you will notice the developer is saying, well, we've done everything we can on our site. They're not talking about what the site is next to and the public health impact of smelling diesel fuel, of lighting in the warehouse. They can change the lighting in the subdivision all they want, but those lights are going to be on in the warehouse all night long, and the trucks are going to make noise all night long. And there's a lot of public health information that talks about how it impacts your health, and actually it's a slow death. It's either cancer from smelling the junk, or it's cardiovascular problems because you can't sleep with noise. So it's an issue, and Pulte is not building anything like that in Alpharetta. And Forsyth County, and how do I know? The real estate friend took me on a trip and said, let me show you what's going on there. We don't need this, we don't want this, and the people who were living in the community before other people started moving down here, they had farms, and we all love all the greenery. And developers are telling us, you know, we're doing you a favor because we're going to bring some young families. And we're saying, what about the schools? We haven't had any new schools since 2009. The schools are underfunded. The traffic is terrible. And I asked my friend sitting next to me, what do you see on this site plan? One long street with all of the cars going to one street to get in and out. Is there a traffic study? No, but there's traffic information. There are numerous reasons why this project should not be approved. And I'm almost finished. When it comes to policy, there's a lot of changes that need to occur. Mr. News Zoning guy, I'm sorry, I don't know your name. Disrespectful. Okay. The community complained about the zoning ordinance. We wanted it opened back up to be revised, and the comp plan, because there wasn't adequate community input for either one of those. So if you're depending on that, that's not gonna help us. So please don't do this to us. Thank you.
Minutes, 4 seconds
Mr.
remaining.
Chairman, members of the planning commission, my name is Bob Dallas, and my office is located at 5 Concourse Parkway, Suite 2600, Atlanta, Fulton County, Georgia. And I'm here representing Michael and Jamie Shapey, who live at 7425 Good Road, which is about a quarter mile from the subject property as a road line. We're speaking out in opposition from changing it from AG1 to CUP. And first, the change of zoning of AG1, this is probably one of the first in the area. It will set the standard for the future. If you don't believe it, look at your next door cities, and you will see exactly how this will develop. Secondly, the comprehensive plan shows that the entire area is a rural neighborhood. Let me read to you what it says about rural neighborhood. This is not it. Rural neighborhood character areas characterized by low to medium density residential house with established single-family homes on large lots and newer traditional style subdivisions with larger lots. And it goes on to say low to medium residential development that maintains the rural character and scale of design. And when you go on to consider what the zoning code provides here in the city of Stone Fulton, it says that you're facilitating development of the city in harmony with the comprehensive plan, which I just read. And it goes on to say to guide the growth and development in the city and to protect, preserve, and enhance the city's historic, natural, economic, and social resources. So I submit to you that this oasis that people come to visit is one of those areas that does need protection. And I will point out that when you look at the density here, yeah, they're saying it's 1 to 2 units per acre. It's not. It's being built as if it was a munch theater project. They're taking advantage of unbuildable property, the lake, the wetlands, and say we're going to combine that, and we're going to have an average of which is now changed 7,800 square foot lots. Well, you realize that is smaller than the R6, which calls for 9,000 square foot lots. And so when you look at what the code says for AG1, it says 1 acre on page 1. So it's very clear that it's not looking for this kind of density as this is being built out. And it's just simply an end run by using CUP to what they couldn't get to directly. And I will point out that this use adjacent to a warehouse, as it's so eloquently stated, is very inconsistent with where people should be living. And secondly, the agricultural use which is around it, you have farm animals, which can be horses, chickens, and things of that nature, are going to be driven out because people will complain about it. It's going to be a problem. These are not compatible uses with each other. So, final point I want to make is that the internal connectivity, as was pointed out, just doesn't exist. You have a long serpentine road. And secondly, I will point out for the undeveloped property around there, there's not sub streets, so that everyone's going to have to get on Ono or Wilkerson Road as opposed to walk to their neighbors. It's something else in the future if this gets done. So I would just like to ask if you're opposed to this, please stand up. And so we would respectfully submit that this should be denied and not approved the proposed at all. Thank you.
2 minutes and 41 seconds for me.
This after we vote. We're a husband and wife. My name is Michael Shapey. I've lived in area for 22 years on Hopgood Road. So I helped coach at
Creekside High School, cross country, my son and my daughter graduated. I participated in neighborhood governmental issues before, promoting the health of our community. Priorities have been, for me, maintain green space and be present. Bear Creek community, which I represent. I'm part of the Bear Creek Neighborhood Watch Group. So I'm representing them. We have an area that's zoned low density residential agricultural use. It's our desire to maintain this environment, and we put together our group as broader. We put together a campaign to get petitions signed in opposition to changing this area from the AG1 to a CUP, which is going to be high density development, which is completely inconsistent with the local zoning. We have a petition, we submitted it to staff. We have 129 signatures. And I want to mention, these are, the vast majority of them are actually, hand signatures. We went door to door, friends went door to door. People came to our house when we got the word out. We have 20 people that signed from Wilkerson's Mill subdivision, which you see up here below the green square. We have 25 people from Hopgood Road, Bear Creek community signed. We have 12 people on the Ono Road. So these are all the people who live directly adjacent to this property. We all oppose this. My wife put together a very good rebuttal to the information that was presented by the developer. We have one of the things that very upsets me in the impact analysis that they put together is that they say things like it's the applicant's knowledge. It's their responsibility to show, and they say that in the applicant's knowledge, there will be no impact of transportation. Where we did a simple search looking at the United States Department of Transportation impact and what turns out to be with 300 homes. We're going to have 730,000 more vehicle trips on our road.
All right, we will extend. We will extend 2 minutes.
Okay, well, that was said. My name is Janie Shaky.
I'd like to make a motion to consider public comment. Additional 2 minutes from the side.
Thank you, sir. We probably move in second in the discussion.
Mr. Rodney Hadley.
Aye.
Mr. Pete Perry.
Aye.
Mr. Henry Young.
Aye.
Ms. Janai Walter. Ms. Rachel Williams. Ms. Paulette Devon. Ms. Tamika Weatherly. Chairman, that motion passes.
Thank you so much for the additional 2 minutes for both sides.
I'll be very quick. I'm Janie Shaky. Once this is rezoned, you cannot go back. What we have now is like a rural oasis where children can come to look at where the see cows grazing, see chickens laying eggs. That is not available in these small, whenever the subdivisions are one after another. There is no diversity when you go through Alpharetta or even Sandtown, or the neighborhoods around us, when every neighborhood looks like the rest. There's houses clustered into every buildable space. And so the main thing that I want to say is that once we change this, we have destroyed the opportunity for kids to come and to learn to love nature, learn to appreciate our earth before we turn right around and ask them to save it for us. We must, the comprehensive plan has promised to protect areas like ours, and in case after case after case in the impact analysis, I mentioned the comprehensive plan and the rezoning ordinance of number 803, that how the impact analysis does not correctly show what they are going to do, what our area is now and what they're going to do.
29 seconds.
I'm sorry.
29 seconds for me.
My name is Brian O'Donnell.
But I might motion that you set public comment.
Mr. Ryan has Gary. Rick Williams. Alexis Lawrence. Lisa Williams.
My name is Brian O'Donnell. I live at 72 Elmo Road. I came to the first meeting and I was hoping for a deferral. It was just me and two others that we found out at the last minute. In that time, the project is not changed. It's pretty much what was originally proposed at that meeting. And we've done at the last community meeting down to 300 homes, which is a 3.8%. However, the groundswell against it has only as the knowledge and information that this. I want to point out that my home is right here. In the winter, I see the lights of this warehouse. What they're proposing originally was one semi-truck trailer long buffer. Now it's two trailers. That's it. If I can see this light in the winter, what's it going to be like for those people that are going to buy those homes today? It's going to be terrible. This development is targeted at first-time, uninformed home buyers. They're going to make the mistake of their life. They're going to be in debt, and it's going to turn into an investment community. It's exactly what's going to happen. And it's going to impact our schools. We're going to be stuck with infrastructure problems, and the rest of us are going to be paying for it in taxes, and it could lead to crime problems down the road as it turns into a rental issue. How are we going to enforce 20%? At HOA, it's weak because it's investor owned. I know my time's short. I appreciate you deferring it. It's time to make a decision. The decision should be no. The people are showing up. We just don't want it. I hope you'll see our point of view and reject them, and we can move on. Find a developer that might want to do something different. We can still do residential here, but if we do CUP, we tear down all the trees. Leave some vegetation. Thank you.
That includes anyone else who wants to speak. With that being said, I entertain a motion to close public comment. We got somebody?
You got 7 minutes and 12 seconds before it goes in favor.
I'm sorry. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry about that. I didn't mean to overlook that. You absolutely come up if you have any questions or comments at the time.
Commissioners. My name is Garen Smith. I'm the Vice President of Land Acquisition for Pulte Group. I'm here tonight. It's been a long process for us. And I think we've tried to work with the neighborhood. I appreciate change is difficult. But I have a couple of comments about what we've heard you say tonight that I think it requires some consideration. Number one is when a developer like Pulte Group takes on a project, we research the future land use map and the policies of the municipality that we're looking to build in. And those are guidelines that are put by the community. I understand that those things develop and evolve over time and people want to make changes. But the best that we can do is to follow those when we make a presentation. We invest a lot of time and money in doing what we're doing. So we are here tonight to ask for a use that's consistent with the policies that are put forward by the City of South Pole. We're not doing anything different than that. Despite what you said, we know there are trade-offs. A very difficult thing for us is in the lot size. You understand that with the community facing changes like this one is, the lot size issue is a difficult. What I can tell you is that I don't think a lot of consideration has been given to the amount of open space. And some people have said, oh, well, your open space is given, you can't build on it anyway, which is true. In an AG1 development, you can build like much more livable than you can in a CUP development. CUP development has a lot of issues. For example, the exterior buffer, which has been dismissed a little bit as not important to people because of the lot size issue. But when you think about the exterior buffer being 50 and then growing to 100 feet, it's really not nothing. Property owners have rights. If this was your property, you would recognize it as a ticket because you can't use it. It's being taken from you. Another example of thing that people have talked about is the rural nature of this area. I see it. It's on the map here. It's green all around the property except for the warehouse. But on one hand, you criticize us for being next to the warehouse. On the other hand, you're saying, nobody can be next to the warehouse, as if only warehouses can go on forever and ever until there's no more land, because it's only warehouses. At some point or another, because you have a Title C, you're going to have a variety of uses, and there's going to have to be a mixing. Our buffer pulls away from the warehouse, and it is the best we can do for our application. Someone mentioned the impact analysis we put together with the state. They were upset. We said it to the best of our knowledge. These are the things that we know. That's really all we can do. We can't tell you things that you won't accept. We can't tell you things that are wrong. We can only tell you to the best of our knowledge. You have to admit that the normal character of this particular property, it may not be what it seems. We're next to between a commercial cemetery and a warehouse.
Jewel Johnson.
To the south, there's a 700 or 870, 780 lot development right at the corner of Ono Road. We're at the corner of Ono Road. There's a fire station going on Wilkerson Mill. There's a commercial parcel on Wilkerson Mill already planned. So I feel like, we've done some things to mitigate what our proposal has been over time. We've tried to move towards the key. It may not be enough, but certainly none of us benefit from things that stir fear or anxiety or hatred against one another. I think we've learned that lesson over and over again. You're not a rental builder. You build for sale homes. We were here before and deferred and asked several times if this subdivision is equivalent to what you would see in Peachtree City or Sunset Alpharetta. And I'm not sure what happened with your trip, but this is identical homes as the homes that we're currently building in Peachtree City. And I think that's what we heard everyone say is that you want a very nice community. And we're building one in Peachtree City. But the house prices that I've stated have shown that it's going to be a high-end community. It is not what people are representing it is. It's got a diversity of products. This is something that's worthy of support. So I would just ask you to pause and consider something is going to get built here. Something is going to get built here. And if you don't like warehouses, and you don't like the smaller lots, you're going to have something coming. And an ag zoning is not an economic use for this property. It just isn't. And so I invite you to reconsider. I invite you to take all these things into account and render your decision. Thank you.
Staff, how much time?
48 seconds.
48 seconds. Anyone else wanting to speak? You have 40 seconds. All right. Was there any time left for the opposition staff?
Yes, 27 seconds.
27 seconds.
I can do
27
27
seconds. Come on.
Do I need to come up there?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, don't start the clock, because I have. What do I need to state before you start the clock? Okay, I live on Owner Road, and the only thing I'd like to point out, which I wrote in the public comments, is the homes on our roads begin in the $800,000 range and go up from there. There's homes that have sold for over $1 million. And so homes that are price pointed at 400,000 aren't anywhere near what the rest of the homes are worth on that area. Then, okay.
6 seconds.
I'm sorry, is that what we got?
6 seconds.
6 seconds.
I live with.
Forest Motor, same house, sir. All right, AG one, neighborhood Wilkerson Mill is AG one, so don't tell me it can't be done.
At this time, we're in the motion to close public comment. There's a second. Probably moved and second. Any further discussion? Stop call the roll to close the public comment, please.
Mr. Rodney Hadley.
Aye.
Keith Carey.
Aye.
Mr. Shannon Jones.
Aye.
Mr. Nye Walker. Ms. Rachel Williams. Ms. Paulette Devon. Mr. Nicole Evans.
Aye.
Chairman, that motion passes.
Thank you so much. At this time, we will have questions or comments from the board. Chair recognizes Chair.
Here's a question for staff. What, as it's currently zoned, what, level of housing can you do?
So in AG one, we can do 1 house per acre. There is a square footage requirement. I don't remember it off the top of my head, but it's 1 house per acre.
That is, what we make a comment, I think, when this first came up a couple of weeks ago, there wasn't a lot of participation. I think somebody said that they just got word of it and they came and we deferred it. I think this is an example of what community involvement needs and having their voices heard. So I hope all the commissioners take into account the overwhelming sentiment of the community.
Any other commissioners?
Commissioner Walters?
Chair recognizes Commissioner Walker.
Yes. I just would like to take a poll of participants that live in the city of South Fulton, or first that live in the city of South Fulton in the audience right now.
So right now, I have to live in South Fulton.
No, the city. The city of South
Oh,
Fulton.
yes.
Thank you. Are there members that live in the city of Palmetto? Thank you.
I'd like to ask Mr. Shaky.
Yes, sir.
What is the lot size of the average home that is in that area as it stands right now?
The minimum lot size is 1 acre in the entire area pictured there. And but with most homes being 5 acres or greater.
Okay, thank you, sir. To the petition. Sorry, for the engineer. Question for you, sir. And there was someone else mentioned about building in the wetland area, that the homes were dropped from 300 to 2 something, correct?
If I may clarify, what I think you're asking is why did the density decline?
Yes.
The density decline in combination with us raising the lot size and hearing the staff's new.
Did raising that lot size, did that include in any of the wet area that require a variance?
No, so your code prevents us from doing development.
Understood that the code prevents that. Just so I don't have that. Anything else from the commission?
Mr. Walker's staff, I know we have a lot of public participation here. Was there anything else that came to the now? So it seems like over time.
We've been receiving emails regarding this petition for a long time now. So there are a number of emails that we received with comments and questions. Do you need that we receive emails today to be included in the public hearing? I can check for you.
What was staff recommendation again?
Staff recommendation and approval of staff condition. That might not work. That you have in there. All right. All right. Uses of the subject property shall be restricted to single-family residential subdivision with no more than 300 single-family homes at a maximum density of 1.92 units per acre. The owner developer must abide by the site plan received by the Department of Community Development and Regulatory Affairs on March 8, 2022. The minimum development standard shall be minimum 2,000 square feet heated floor area for one-story home, minimum 2,700 square feet heated floor area for two-story homes, minimum lot area 8,000 square feet, maximum building height 40 feet, minimum front yard 20 feet measured from interior edge of the sidewalk. Front yard shall be a minimum of stagger shall be a minimum of 5 feet, minimum rear yard 20 feet, minimum side yard interior to street 5 feet, minimum side yard adjacent to street 15 feet, minimum building separation 10 feet. The minimum lot width of the building line shall be 65 feet. Following traffic and right-of-way requirements shall apply. Development shall be limited to a maximum of 1 curb cut on Wilkerson Mill Road and 2 curb cuts on Clinton. The locations of 10 curb cuts are subject to site distance and spacing requirements and the approval of the city traffic engineer. Secondary road access to north entrance along that road shall be dedicated for emergency vehicles only. Sidewalks are required along frontages of Wilkerson Mill Road and Owner Road and along all subdivision streets. Traffic calming is required along the main subdivision street. A deceleration lane in the left lane is required at the entrance of Wilkerson Mill Road. Right-of-way dedication is required along the entire frontage of the road such that there is a minimum of 30 feet from center line of 12 feet and 12 feet from that curb, whichever is greater. Community shall have an internal sidewalk system on both sides of the street, which connects to the public sidewalk system to be installed along Wilkerson Mill Road. And the recreational area shall include a swimming pool, clubhouse, and 2 bike parks. Certificates of occupancy shall not be issued for more than 100 homes before the amenity area is completed. A 50-foot underserved buffer shall be maintained along the Wilkerson Mill Road and Owner Road. No lot shall be allowed direct access from Wilkerson Mill Road or Owner Road. Each unit house shall have a minimum 2-car garage, and side entry garages shall be developed on corner lots, provided that the topography of the land doesn't make the installation of the side entry garage impractical or more costly than if more than 2 garages are to be built on a corner lot, only 2 of the garages are required to be side entry garages. A photometric lighting plan shall be submitted and approved before obtaining a land service permit, which shall include dark sky compliant light fixtures for the proposed street lighting. Front facing facade shall be 100% brick. There shall be a brick water table on all 4 sides of each home. Other exterior facade shall consist of 1 or more of the following materials: hardy plank, brick, stone, stucco, fiber, cementitious, and board and batten. The use of vinyl and aluminum siding shall be strictly prohibited except for architectural trim, soffits, or similar details. The elevation shall be substantially
builder shall have the right to add additional elevations that are similar in style to the attached elevation. Foundations shall not be exposed. All undisturbed buffer recreational areas and other unbuildable spaces that are not part of a platted lot shall be done and maintained by the mandatory homeowners association. These proposed documents of incorporation shall be submitted to the director of community development for review and approval prior to the recording of the first final plat. Secretary to my sign shall be installed in the mandatory homeowners association.
Before we go to a vote, is there anything else for me as a commission? Let me say this, is that one of the things I think needs to be looked at is that, no, you can't tell people what to do with the property when they purchase it. They would like to do what they want to do, but it doesn't really give them the right to build some things that are uncovered and not conducive to the area. So others have rights as well. We'll make that known. So this subdivision is sitting right up against the warehouse. That's an environmental issue. I don't know what other way to look at it. And the density is being added to already a high density area. Very concerning. I've driven that area. And I'm gonna tell you that there is some concern about the traffic in the streets that's in that area. Now, that may not be on the development that could fall upon the city or whomever, but there's still some concerns there. One thing I like to see this city do is really put emphasis on preserving green space. I think that every piece of land, 2 acres or more, is being gobbled up with residential properties, high density area. I also think that in high density areas such like this, all around us, what is the added commercial development that could be proposed and put in that area to benefit the community? So again, I just think that there are a lot of concerns here. And I just don't see it. That's just Chairman Miller's point of view. At this point, there's another person, Chair recognized.
Not a question, but a comment. I also think, the District 4 specifically, is one of our last areas where there still remains, opportunity to control and really understand. Do the best development in the area. And, you know, if the area that's agricultural, lots of green space, bringing this kind of development right now, especially in that specific area with the surrounding impacts that are not really demonstrated in the impact analysis. The impact of this 700 unit community that's being developed, the impact of the commercial properties around in that area. I think it's not something that, I think it's something that from a commission standpoint, as well as our leadership is really looking at preserving the opportunity and preserving what we want to do in that area versus proceeding with the first option that presents itself. And right now, all of it has been residential housing. There are other economic uses that are not all residential housing. And I think we need to look at that as a city. What do we want District 4 to represent? And a lot of times there's 2 things related to this project that concerns me. One is continuity. Again, what does our area, what does our district want to do? And the second is the contiguity, what is around it. And we really have to look at that. We can't just look at this as just, this is city South Fulton, we're making one decision right now. We are really impacted by the city's right for progress. And we need to make sure that we're cognizant of that.
Thank you so much. At this time, is there any other thing from the commission? Yes, ma'am.
was it considered like the community said, one house per acre, like the AG one? Was that a consideration?
Is that a question? Who's that
Yeah, to
question
the
for?
developer.
The question was there any consideration of building what's already in the community, one house per acre?
Well, if we wanted to do that, it's already done for that.
Yeah.
Do that by right.
But was that a consideration? Yeah,
Here tonight to make the request is that we wanted to follow the future land use.
okay. All right. Thank you so much. We're done, we will entertain a motion.
Make a motion. I move to recommend denial of the request to rezone from AG1 to CUP for the purpose of these 300 homes, as I do not find that they meet the following criteria as outlined in section 803.6 of the zoning ordinance. It does not meet criteria 10, whether the zoning proposal or zone use which could cause excessive burdensome use of existing streets, transportation facilities, utilities, or schools. And also 13, whether the zoning proposal will permit a use which can be environmentally adverse to the natural resource, environments, and citizens of Southwood.
Is there a second?
I see, Commissioner Walker, I second that.
Ms. Hoffman, moved in second. Any further discussion?
Commissioner, I'd like to add to that, the addition of the standard for number 5, where development gain to the public as compared to the hardship people that individual population.
We've been added to that motion. So,
Mr. Rodney Haskins.
Aye.
Mr. Keith Pierce.
Aye.
Reverend Chin James.
Aye.
Ms. Janai Walker.
Aye.
Ms. Rachel Williams. Ms. Paulette Devon. Ms. Tamika Weathers. That motion passes.
thank you so much, now. Let me ask that all those that you have like three, 4 more cases to hear tonight, if you're not staying, if you comply the exit concern. Please go ahead and exercise.
We're ready to proceed. Our next case tonight is a request for rezoning special use permit and concurrent variance at 3505 Hatfield Road, to build a gas station in District 1. The request came with a number of variances since our last meeting. There have been a number of changes, and some of those variances have been removed. The ones that remain are the request to increase the monument size from 6 feet to 16 feet, to increase the area of the monument sign from 32 square feet to 70 square feet. To decrease the monument size setback from 10 feet to 5 feet, to allow LED lights on the sign, to allow a fabric screening for the dumpster doors in the roof screening. The applicant actually has found an alternative for the roof screening that does not include fabric. They would like to encroach in the 25-foot undisturbed buffer and 10-foot improvement setback required between the proposed gas station and the residential tract immediately to the north. They would also like to encroach into the 10-foot landscape strip and the 15-foot landscape strip. It's going to be the driveway on Cascade Parkway, the curb on the southwest corner, and then the curb and the buffer on Cascade Parkway. The applicant is asking for an exemption from the requirement to have landscape islands every 5 parking spaces. And they're asking for a variance. And basically the development regulations also say that each landscape island has to be 200 square feet. So they're asking for a variance exemption for that one. And they're also asking for a variance to, the ordinance requires them to install overstory trees. So they're asking for a variance to allow them to install understory trees. Staff is recommending approval on a lot of these. So staff is recommending approval for the LED lights, the buffer, the 25-foot undisturbed buffer, and number 6. Staff is recommending approval because the area immediately to the north is on TR, and there aren't actually townhomes on it. It's actually a lift station in that north parcel that's owned by the city of Atlanta, and it's not going to hurt the lift station, and the site can't really be used there because there's a lift station on it. Staff is recommending approval of the encroachment because of some of the topography of the site. The site is very small and it makes it difficult to stay in alignment with the buffer that still has to be used. Staff is recommending a landscape island every 8 parking spaces instead of every 5. And then staff is recommending approval of the variance for the 200 square feet landscape island. And then instead of the large overstory trees, staff is recommending approval to have understory trees or shrubs to be approved by the city.
Does that mean something that has to be removed?
No, sir. The site currently doesn't have trees right there. It's just a sidewalk. There are some power lines adjacent to the site, next between like the site and the sidewalk. And so if they put the overstory trees, it would impact the power lines. And so we're recommending like maybe understory trees or shrubs. But that will be approved by the arborist at the time of the permit. So this is an idea of where the site is. It's the area highlighted on Cascade Road. It's immediately adjacent to I-285. It's near the Kroger Shopping Center. And then here is our zoning map on the left. You can see that immediately on top of that, that yellow part is zone TR, and that's where the lift station is. And so that's what I meant when we were talking about the 25-foot buffer earlier. And then also you can see your land use plan, so it's the red area. So it's intended to be used for commercial use, and C1 and C2 are appropriate. I can add some additional context. This site used to be a Citgo gas station. I'm from the area, and as long as I can remember personally, it's been undeveloped and it's just a vacant site right now. There is a canopy where it looks like there used to be a gas station, but there aren't any actual gas pumps there. It's just vacant property. This is the site plan. This went before Fulton County in 2014. And there were a number of variances that were already approved. Some of them for signs that we were able to find, and another one that allowed them to hike the stream. And so the little snake part that goes towards the south is the stream that they're putting the pipe. This was previously on the agenda last month and it has been deferred one time. Since the last meeting, there are a number of variances that have been withdrawn by the applicant. One of them was the current ordinance requires that gas stations can't be within 3 miles of one another. The council, given some of the challenges with the site, and since it used to be used as a gas station, it's currently a brownfield. And in addition to a number of other factors, the council is actually considering an exception to that rule for this one. And it was heard at the council meeting yesterday. They are withdrawing the request to delete the stream buffer because that was already approved by Fulton County in 2014. The permit that they bought from the Army Corps of Engineers in 2014 has expired, and so one of the conditions is going to be that they're going to have to get new permits from the Army Corps of Engineers. The applicant had asked for 2 variances for the colors from the Cascade overlay for Quick Trip Red and Quick Trip Brown. We found that in 2014, the Quick Trip Red had already been approved. And for the Quick Trip Brown, we're going to try and find a color similar in the Pantone color chart in the Cascade overlay. And then we might be able to match a color to what they're proposing administratively. We had an issue with the synthetic stucco. Since the ordinance does not allow that, the applicant has taken the stucco off of the building and provided us with elevations that have like a black stone instead. The applicant has requested an additional wall sign. The ordinance says that we can have one wall sign on each street facing facade and on canopies that are street facing. And then it also says that the signs have to be less than 100 square feet. So there were already additional signs approved for the canopy structure from Fulton County 2014, so we're honoring those. And then the applicant has taken off some of the signs they had requested and reduced the size of some of the signs they had requested so that they're in compliance with what's in the ordinance. And by the sign, I mean the wall signs, not the monument sign. And also the applicant has a material that we talked about called polypro. And it is a fabric screening material that they would like to use on the dumpsters, but the applicant said that they were able to find an alternative screening for the HVAC equipment on top of the building. So here are some elevations that we have. You can see that the synthetic stucco was removed. The facade of the building is now brick and stone with stone accent, black stone accent. And then the applicant has withdrawn the request for a steel canopy structure. And you can see that these canopy structures are now made out of brick per the requirements in the overlay. And then this is I asked for some pictures and additional information on the screening material they had recommended, and basically that's what this is on the left. It's called polypro, and it's almost completely opaque, and it's like a black material. They said that the texture is similar to that of maybe like the trampoline. And then this is the monument sign that they're proposing. It's still not in compliance with the requirements of the ordinance. The ordinance does say that we can't have LED signs, but what we would have had instead would have been maybe like drinkable coffee. So that means that anytime the gas prices go up, someone would have had to like actually go out there and switch out the signs. And so we are kind of encouraging the LED signs. There might be a change to the ordinance soon to match this. But for the LED signs, it just makes more sense that they don't have to go out there to change the letters. But staff is still recommending denial of the increase in the sign space and the increase in the sign height. And staff recommendation approval of staff conditions.
Thank you, staff. At this time, we're going to take a motion over public comment.
I make a motion on public comment.
Second.
I'll be moving second in discussion. Hearing none, staff, call the roll, please.
Mr. Rodney Hadley.
Aye.
Mr. Keith Perry. Mr. Shannon Jones. Ms. Janai Walters. Ms. Rachel Williams. Ms. Paulette John. Ms. Tamika Webber.
It's been a long night. Try to be short. So glad it was so long. 35, 62. Look, understand that word. Let me start by saying first that we've been representing QT for quite some time. We know that we've had a number of meetings with the community, that this community, and I believe there's some here that have worked very hard trying to get QT to take this particular location. It has been something that's been in the works for quite some time. One of the reasons why we've had to make modifications here is because there were some things kind of left out of the process for QT on QT's side when they came to the variances back when Fulton didn't actually require, I think, the use permit component of this. So they were just going through the variance component. And then with their new site design, along with their, they did have a Generation 3 building. They made some slight modifications to that building. Additionally, how it is located on the site was actually modified as well. And so that is what has prompted them to have to come back now for particularly some of the variances. And we do have someone from QT to speak directly to the variance issues. But from a use perspective, I think that I would say that the QT in this community would be a welcome change. QT is like very, in my opinion, is the best gas station convenience store. They always have consistency in the quality of their product, and they are corporate-owned stores. They're not franchise stores. So that is how they are able to keep quality. But that's also what leads them to the challenges with the ordinance. They are very, I don't want to say they're rigid, but they have a specific design, a specific look, a specific way of doing business that has allowed them to be successful. And so that is what the challenge is that we have with the overlay. We know from staff that the use at C1 does require a use permit. We are near the Kroger. I know the community fought hard to keep Kroger, I guess, from getting their gas pumps, and we're successful with that. But do like to see the proposal here with taking what was an older gas station that's been vacant for quite some time and allowing it to be redeveloped. This is the current conditions of the corridor. And this is the site plan that's proposed by staff, as set forth up here previously by staff. The variances that we are asking for, we believe, are necessary in order for us to put in a QT that is consistent with the other QTs, particularly the Generation 3 building and aesthetic that they have. And we have fought really hard to come up with ways to address the issues that the community and the staff have raised, to try and find some points of compromise. But the things that we will discuss here tonight, we believe really need to be done in order for us to be able to proceed with the project proposal. So I'm going to turn it over to my able companion here from QT.
Commissioner Charlotte Tarwater, 952 Old Peachtree Road, Lawrenceville, Georgia. I'm here to speak on behalf of Quick tonight as a project manager for this site and in regards to these variances put forth. So I'd like to start first off with sign variances and variance request 1, 2, 3, and the one in regard to the trees all kind of relate to each other. So we are asking for a taller sign because we have to do understory trees due to the overhead power lines. If you have short trees, it's hard to have a short sign as well because then one gets blocked
the sign gets blocked, and then you have traffic coming down the street that it makes it hard to see as you're coming down the street. You might have unsafe traffic motions as you're getting across due to the gas price or something else that you reminded. A quick trip to your we are allowed a taller sign. We will need an increase in the square footage of the sign face as well, simply because if we go taller, we'll need to make it narrow so we can go up above the trees that are currently proposed as understory beneath them. And then lastly, point 3, the decreased monument sign setback from 10 feet to 5 feet. That is also in regards to traffic safety. If we could get that a little bit closer to the street, out of the tree sight line just a little bit. Again, you have motorists coming down the street, they see a quick trip sign and they pull in rather than wait till the last second and possibly make an unsafe lane change 2 or 3 lanes over into the site. Point 4, in regards to the LED lights, this has already been discussed a little bit. We believe it offers a cleaner look. It's easier to read from all angles, and it also keeps an employee from having to go out constantly once a day, twice a day, in the rain or in the weather, and change the signs themselves. We can change it inside from one of the store computers when we get direction to do that as a store employee. Point 5 allows us to use fabric as screen for dumpster door. This has been discussed a little bit as well. We propose a Polypro 95, which is sort of like a trampoline, and that is very hard to see through, but it allows wind to pass through. We've had issues in the past when we use all steel doors, that when the wind catches it, it swings wildly in and out if an employee is inside dumping the trash. We've had issues where an employee gets hit by it and injured, or gets trapped inside because the doors are blowing in and they're trapping them inside due to that. We've come up with a solution using Polypro. We use that almost exclusively now at all of our stores, and it is tremendously lighter. Speaking as someone who has operated those doors in the past versus an all steel door, I feel much safer when I was emptying the trash when we had those. Point 6, the encroachment on the 25-foot undisturbed buffer and 10-foot improvement between QT and the residential tract. The residential tract operates the lift station right now, as well as some of the sanitary sewer line. That is probably not going to be developed, and so we were providing access to that lift station from our access point that we're proposing on Cascade Parkway, and that's why we are asking for encroachment on that buffer there. Let's see, point 7, the encroachments, first being the driveway to Cascade Parkway encroaches in the buffer. That access point was proposed by the city of South Walton because it lines up with the Kroger that's adjacent to us. We want to have matching up access points from the Kroger and the QT so that we don't have unsafe traffic motions or conflicting left turns where you don't know across the street who's going when, and then you have head-ons in the middle of the intersection. The curb on the southwest corner encroaches on the buffer. We're asking for a variance here because that is a turn around the building there. We like to give the motorists and people walking as much space as possible, as reasonably possible, so that they can get around a corner without having to either shimmy up against the curb or drive over the landscaped islands on the side where there's going to be trees. And then lastly, the entire curb line on Cascade Parkway. That curb line runs adjacent to where our canopy will be, and so you will have motorists and customers pulling out from the canopy out up towards Cascade Parkway entrance and exit. We need to give them plenty of space to maneuver out in case they have a car next to them or a car waiting for them, so they can get out against the curb line and then go up to the exit on Cascade Parkway and make their right or left turn. The exemption from the requirement to have landscape islands required every 5 parking spaces. I believe right now we have 8 parking spaces as a staff approval. The only issue we have with that is the front of the store where we have our ADA parking. So that would cause some issues with the van unloading or loading if the tree island was in the middle of our proposed parking spots. The variance from minimum requirement to have a landscape island be a minimum of 200 square feet for 2 landscape islands at the rear of the building. Again, this goes back to customer safety. We'd like to have as many parking spaces next to the building to prevent people walking from across the lot into the store rather than just walking immediately onto the sidewalk there. If we can do a little bit of a smaller island there, we can get more spots in right next to the store so that you don't have customers walking across the lot through traffic, driving around the building or lining up for gas. And then lastly, the variance from the requirement to install large overstory trees along Cascade Road as overhead utilities are in conflict. So there's overhead power lines, as I mentioned previously, running along Cascade Road. Due to Georgia Power's regulations, we cannot put overstory trees there because they'll just come along, chop the top right off, and then you sort of have half a tree that doesn't look very good and looks, like it's constantly getting chopped down because it's constantly hitting the power lines, which causes further issues. So that's where we are requesting understory trees, which then also goes back to asking for a taller sign so that we can be seen above the short trees. That is what I have on variances. Are there any questions that I can help answer?
Well, we should close the public.
No.
For this petition.
Yes, we've got 8 seconds remaining and 1 in favor. That's Ms. Watkins.
Staff at this time, we will open up a motion to extend public comment for 2 minutes.
Make a motion to extend public comment 2 minutes for both sides.
Second, any further discussion? Hearing none, staff call the roll, please.
Mr. Rodney Haslett. Mr. Keith Harris.
Aye.
Mr. Shannon Jones.
Aye.
Mr. Nyla Walter. Ms. Rachel Williams. Ms. Paulette Devon. Ms. Nick Weathers. That motion passes.
Thank you, staff. Call forward.
Thank you and good evening. I'm Vanjie Watkins, a long-time resident of West Cascade in the city of South Fulton. I would almost want to say approve this with staff recommendations, but I'm scared. I'm scared to do that because it's almost like a new application. What I had to deal with was 16 variances. But staff has done a magnificent job of pruning those and tailoring those variances so they are more in conformance with a previously approved QT, which I fought long and hard to have when we were full county. We had an excellent QT station at that site that would have replaced the old Fitco. But we went from Fulton County into the city, South Fulton, which meant that it's a different process. But staff has been kind enough to go back and look at what was approved in 2015. What I'd like to ask Ms. Jackson to do, I don't know if she has a slide that shows what was approved for QT in Scottsdale, Arizona. Is that a part of your presentation?
It was not.
Again, community input is discretionary. I did research on QT in Scottsdale, Arizona, that is absolutely gorgeous. Meets the Cascade overlay, in conformance with city of South Fulton zoning. Small sign, landscape hedges, everything just like it was designed for us. And I submitted it to staff and to the applicant saying, if you can take this and just move it over here, and put it on Cascade and 285, we'd be happy. But it's not a part of the presentation, so you can't see it. It has a small sign, which is exact same sign as the Cascade overlay. It has landscaping, it has hedges, it has everything to the T. The only thing that I have questions about now, and I'm in favor of the screening on the dumpster, but I don't know about the screening on the roof because they cannot put that heat and air conditioning stuff on the roof without having it covered. So this new technology they're talking about, I don't know what it looks like. So I have to rely on that. What I would like to do, since my submission to staff is not included in the presentation, is I would like to express to you that I am a QT advocate. They do good work. I want to make sure they do it on Cascade. So I'm going to leave it up to my other neighbors. Thank you.
Yes, I can fill out the code, but I would like to say something.
Mr. Chair, it's been another 1 minute and 39 seconds above and beyond the amount of time that you allotted.
Are there any opposition comments?
There is one comment in opposition that is a Mr. and Mrs. Barr, I believe.
Okay.
Good evening. I'm Lamont Carr, live on Cascade Road, been in the community of almost 30 years now. Very familiar with this property. I want to thank QT for all the updates you did to your application. It's a much better plan than what was initially presented with the 16 variances. I'm here to stand in opposition of the 16-foot sign on Cascade Road. Years ago, we worked through several organizations, South Fulton Revitalization, as well as Association Cascade, to come up with the overlay district that's along Cascade to improve the appearance and come up with a maintenance plan for the appearance of Cascade Road. With that included how the signs would look. And one thing was we did not want all these false signs, we wanted to low monument signs. I think at the time, one of the catalysts was Hilton Heat. How you would drive through it and had the resort feel. And I think that's what has attracted a lot of people to the Cascade area, because I know people live down on the other side of Camp Creek, exit at Cascade, or at least give directions to their house off of Cascade, so that people can get a feel for that versus exiting some of the other exits along the way, because they like the aesthetics of this area. We do ask that you maintain our standards for signage, and please do not approve at the request for the price height in signage. I'm concerned about the parapet screen. I would love to see what you're proposing, because that's new, and usually the fascia of the building is built up tall enough where you can't see the mechanicals on top of the building. And that is what we are asking for. I don't know about this. I appreciate the dumpsters doors, and it is only supposed to be the doors that are covered in this screening. The dumpster itself is supposed to be brick, the enclosure, and the doors only are supposed to be screened. Is that correct?
Yes, that's right.
Okay, just want to make sure, because these are new recommendations. So we're in favor of that, but please do not approve the height of the sign. Thank you.
There's no more comments in opposition.
Motion is second for the close public comment, properly moved and second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, staff call the roll, please.
Mr. Rodney Hadley.
Aye.
Mr. Pete Terry.
Aye.
Reverend Shannon Jones.
Aye.
Mr. Matt Walker. Ms. Tracy Williams. Ms. Paulette Lamont. Ms. Tamika Weatherly. That motion passes.
Staff, if there's any comments or questions for the board, to either party.
Just want to make mention that staff condition does not approve the sign increase. So we do approve it with staff condition. We will not be saying yes to the sign.
Anything further?
I have a question about the, I think it was the buffer from 10 feet to 5 feet.
For the sign.
No, from the, I guess where you want the sign. but
Yeah, so we're proposing to move it from a 10-foot setback from the road to 5 feet, just to allow motorists to see it a little bit clearer when they're driving down the road or at the intersection at Tyson Parkway and Cascade Road.
Well, if it was taller, you wouldn't need that.
Well, that's
Yeah,
correct.
yeah, so if you were gonna do 16 feet, you could see that, 2 or 3 miles away. But if we had it at the 6 feet that's in our ordinance, then I guess the buffer, because I was just thinking about the traffic that goes down there, and 5 feet ain't much if something happens to hit the something, you know what I'm saying? That's just, worst case scenario. And I have another question on the parapet wall. Do you have a picture of how you're gonna have a parapet wall with the screening?
So on the roof is actually, we went through the polypro, we are doing brick around the HVAC and the systems on top of the building.
Okay, so you actually gonna do a mechanical house, or you're just doing a parapet wall?
Parapet wall.
Okay, okay.
With brick all the way around covering everything. The polypro will only be on the dumpster.
Commission have questions, comments? Just one thing real quick, for the public, to speak on the overlay. Did any changes to that to this day?
No, it had not been. My name is Rich. I'm a long time resident of the Cascade community. As a matter of fact, I wanted to help put the Cascade overlay in place. And it was put in place for a consistent development that make everything look uniform. Now, I'm in favor of many of the variants, but the fabric that's used for screening around the dumpster, we originally had brick for the screening around the dumpster, because all the rest of the development in the Cascade Code have brick screening around the dumpster. And I hope we can be consistent with that. Now, for the signage of concern, if we approve a larger sign, it will only set a precedent for other businesses in the Cascade commercial corridor. Say, you know what? They approved the larger sign down the street. Let us go back in for a variance and get try to get a larger sign approved by our business. And we don't need that. And I just encourage you all to deny those variances that going to be very inconsistent with what we already have. Thank you.
This time we're going to
The screening, I think there's a misunderstanding about the dumpster.
At this time, public comment is closed. We're going to move forward with the vote on this. Entertain a motion.
I move to close public comment.
I say, public comment has been closed. We move for a motion to approve or deny the petition.
Chairman, I think that we are clear as we go into this vote, that there would be brick surrounding the dumpster and a screen. And I think we are here that we don't want this corridor to turn into a Vegas type signs. Okay, so as we go into the
The staff condition, just want to make sure that the answers that you have to the different variances where you staff recommends approval of the now, are those considered staff conditions?
Yes, sir, they are. And what I meant for, I think what we meant for the dumpster is gonna be a brick square, and 3 sides are gonna be brick. And then you have to have a way to get into it. So what the applicant is suggesting is that. But the applicant is suggesting that the one side in the front where we can open the door to get out of it will be the fabric.
Gotcha.
And so when we open the door, the opening will be fabric, but the other side will be brick.
Can we get a motion on the floor?
I move to recommend approval with staff's conditions enumerated in the 5/26/2022 staff report. The request is zoned from C1 to C2 and obtain a special use permit for a gas station.
There a second?
I second.
Probably move in second, any further discussion? Hearing none, staff, please call the vote.
Mr. Rodney Hammond. Mr. Keith Carey.
Aye.
Reverend Shannon Jones.
Aye.
Ms. Janai Walter. Ms. Rachel Williams. Ms. Paulette Devon. Ms. Tamika Weatherly. That motion passed.
Thank you, staff, please call the next case.
Mr. Chair, there are also there's the question of the variances.
We need to do a motion on the question of the variances, is that what you're stating?
That's what I'm saying. I thought staff condition included the different references to the variances.
So that you could make different decisions on the different variances, we've separated out. So the first one is just for the rezoning and the special use permit. And then there's a separate motion for the variances, so you can
Okay,
articulate.
I'm sorry, I do see where you're going. So the motion that was passed will be the concurrent variance, is that correct, or?
So the motion that passed includes the request for rezoning from C1 to C2 with the special use permit for the gas
Okay,
station.
so now we need to do vote on the concurrent variance. I'm gonna take the motion on the concurrent variance 22-002.
I move to recommend approval of the variances for monuments, sign setback, LED light requirements, landscape encroachment, 2 variances related to parking lot islands and overstory tree requirements.
One second.
I second.
Probably move in second, any discussion? Let me ask this question that, I think that with the LED lighting, that was an issue in the overlay, am I correct with that?
Yes.
Yeah, so that can't happen without that overlay being changed.
Well, we don't have to, I think that at some point in time, we may consider a text amendment so that the overlay as a whole changes to LED lighting. But this variance that we're discussing today is only specific to the site at 3505 Acton Road. So if we make a motion to approve the variance for the LED lighting, it's only going to affect this one parcel that we're talking about today.
Is that stated? Because I don't want that to be something to come back, you know, that it's a misunderstanding.
We're able to amend the motion so that it's stated. I think that in general, when we have variances to the overlay is applied, that we only say this one action that was specified.
Concurrent variance.
There's some clarity.
Is it clarity to me?
It's just indicating that it's not part of the overlay, that regulation for the LED prohibition. He's stating it's not part of the overlay, but part of the base sign code.
We want to make sure that definitely make the minutes. All right. We will take a motion.
I think, yeah,
We may have to do a proper move. Second. All right.
Okay.
Move a second.
So Mr. Rodney Hadley.
Aye.
Mr. Keith Perry.
Aye.
Mr. Shannon Jones. Ms. Janai Walter. Ms. Rachel Williams. Ms. Paulette Devon. Ms. Tamika Weatherly. That motion passes.
Thank you so much. Yeah, call the next step.
Yep.
There are,
So
really quickly, we still need to decide on the other variances. There's also staff recommended denial and then staff recommended withdrawal.
Well,
So you're saying we have to vote on every variance?
You have to be able to vote on every.
Separately.
It could be together. We needed to separate it because we didn't know how you wanted to act.
That's why I was asking, was this including this?
Well,
Yeah.
here's the thing, here's the thing, if we need to vote on them separately, then it should have been indicated that in the package. Because right now, like the way you have it written, it's like get it all together.
I move to recommend denial of the variances for increase in the monument height, monument sign area. And
Hold on.
I thought we were okay. We should vote on that.
First of all,
So,
first of all, there is no motion set for to approve CB 22-002. Now you're telling us that we need to vote on each variance.
No, not on each variance separately. We articulated it like this so that you could move it around if you wanted to change staff's conditions. We didn't want to assume that you wanted to follow along the line of staff's conditions. What you could do is approve the approve the variances in accordance with staff conditions, deny the variances in accordance with staff recommendation, and approve the request for withdrawal in accordance with staff recommendation. If you wanted to do it that way.
We will all be running through the motion to,
Which
I think, approve the staff condition that highlighted in the package without going to.
the original motion was to approve the rezoning and the special use permit. It did not articulate any decision on the variances.
Well, we just did that last, we did not.
You did an approval of the variances that were listed.
It needs to state that, that's what you're saying.
So yeah, you did the approval motion. There are still decisions for the height, the sign area, the fabric screen doors, and then the withdrawal. So you can combine that into one motion if you'd like. And just do it as one motion, the last two. So I move to recommend denial and I move to recommend acceptance. You could do that as one motion if you'd like.
Right. Commissioners, you understand what's being stated? Please, sir.
I move to recommend denial of the variances for increase in monument height, monument sign area, and fabric screen on dumpster doors. No, I'm sorry. Let me withdraw and start over. I move to recommend the denial of the variances for increases in monument height, monument sign area, acceptance of the fabric screen on dumpster doors, the acceptance of the withdrawal for request for the street buffer, wall signage increase, painted steel allowance on the canopy structure, use of synthetic stucco, and building color request.
I second.
Probably move in second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, staff, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Rodney Hadley,
Aye.
Mr. Keith Terry,
Aye.
Reverend Shannon Jones, Ms. Janai Walter, Ms. Rachel Williams, Ms. Paulette Devon, Ms. Tamika Weatherly.
Clear to move forward.
Okay, so the next case tonight is a request for rezoning at 0 Cascade Road. This was city initiated rezoning. At this time, staff would like to request a deferral.
Motion. Discussion.
Move to recommend deferral and from A to R.
I second.
Probably move in second, any further discussion? Hearing none, staff, call the roll.
Mr. Rodney Hackman. Mr. Keith Terry.
Aye.
Reverend Shannon Jones. Ms. Janai Walter. Ms. Rachel Williams. Ms. Paulette Devon. Ms. Tamika Weatherly. Okay, our next case is a.
Quick step before we move forward with the next case. There are reasons for it.
Yes, so we were not, once we had finalized a location for the meeting, staff, we just did not have adequate time to send notices to the 1 mile radius and post a public meeting, and also prepare the other applicants for the public hearing tonight. And so that we have additional time to have public meetings and send the notices, we just like to request those.
Staff, please proceed with the next case.
So our next case is a request for a special use permit for waxing studio. It's located at 5370 Templeton Fairwood Road in District 3. It will be a wax studio. They're doing body waxing, facials, and hair braiding. The current site is zoned MIX, and the use is in compliance with both the future land use plan and the current zoning. For reference, this is at the location of the public shopping center right here. It's not highlighted, but it's at the intersection of South Fulton Parkway and Hamilton River Road. Here we are. On the left is the zoning map. It's kind of surrounded by Union City on. I don't know how to do this. It's kind of surrounded by Union City on 3 sides. Kind of surrounded by Union City on 3 sides, as you can see, and then the future land use of the community live work. So the commercial use is in compliance with future land use plans. The applicant provided a layout of the interior. They're going to have a couple of rooms for uses in when you come inside. There's like a waiting area and receptionist. The applicant has actually outfitted the space already, and she was able to provide us with some photos of the interior. And staff recommendation is approval. Staff recommendation is approval with the condition that the use will be limited to body waxing, facials, and hair braiding.
Please tell me take a motion over the public comment. Second. Second discussion. Hearing none, staff call the roll, please.
Mr. Rodney Hadley. Mr. Keith Perry. Reverend Shannon Jones. Ms. Janai Walter. Ms. Rachel Williams. Ms. Paulette Devine. Ms. Timmy Floyd. That motion passes. Yes, Ms. Williams is here with us today.
Yeah. But I'm Rhonda Williams of 7720 Delmas Drive, Durham, Georgia, and I present Crown Royal Brazilian Wax, and we are seeking approval for body wax studio here in Durham. That's it.
Thank you. Hey, staff, are there any comments to speak for this petition?
Ms. Rhonda Williams, it's all,
Anybody here to speak against?
there are no applications in, or
This is a motion to close public comment. Moving second, any further discussion?
So one that we had last month was on Campbellton Road, in District 1. This one is on Campbellton Fairwood Road.
That's right. Understand. Close the public comment.
Yes, Mr. Rotten Hadley, Mr. Keith Perry, Reverend Shannon Jones, Ms. Janai Walters, Ms. Rachel Williams, Ms. Paulette Devine, Ms. Tamika Weatherly. That motion passes.
Thank you, staff. This time, we return. Let me ask if there are any questions or comments from the board about this petition. Motion.
I move to recommend approval of the staff conditions enumerated in 5/26/2022 staff report. Request for a waxing studio offering body wax, facial, hair braiding, 5370 Calhoun, Fairwood Road.
Is there a second?
I second.
The move is second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, staff call the roll, please.
Mr. Rotten Hadley, Mr. Keith Perry, Reverend Shannon Jones, Ms. Janai Walters, Ms. Paulette Devine, Ms. Tamika Weatherly. That motion passes. Oh, Ms. Rachel Williams. I'm sorry.
Thank you. Next case.
So our last case tonight is a request for a special use permit for a hoop lounge located at 5550 Old National Highway in District 6. The applicant is requesting a special use permit for a hoop lounge. The site is currently zone C2 and future land use is regional land work. The request is in compliance with both the zoning district and the future land use plans. So you need just a special use permit. This is the site. It's kind of near Jerome Road, located on Old National. It's like kind of cat a corner in front of where Skate Town is. On the left is the zoning map. You can see that it's zone C2, and on the right is the future land use map. You can see that along the frontage of Old National, the future land use is regional land work. The applicant provided a site plan to show the inside of the facility. They're going to have a few tables inside. They're going to have a kitchen, a bar area, and an outdoor seating area. And staff recommendation is approved.
Thank you, staff. At this time, we're taking a motion over public comment. We move to open public comment.
Second.
Probably move to second. You will know staff call the roll, please.
Mr. Rodney Hammond. Mr. Keith Perry. Reverend Shannon Jones. Ms. Janai Walters. Ms. Rachel Williams. Ms. Paulette Devon. Ms. Tamika Weatherly. That motion passes.
Thank you. At this time, we're here for the petitions.
Good evening. My name is Sheree Phillips. Jackson is pulling up. But my name is Sheree Phillips. I'm at 638 Oakland Court, and I reside actually in District. I actually reside in District 6, but the business is located in District 5. I have been attending city council meetings. I've been pretty active in just kind of seeing the different ways that the city of South Florida is trying to grow. I made sure I took note of like the NASA groundbreaking as far as implementing the new hotels and things like that. And long story short, I want to be a part of the new developments of Old National. I would like to be a part of the revitalization of what Old National is bringing. And I am currently serving on the Old National District Business Board as the vice president, and I only feel it fitting to be held more responsible to bring something to the table. There are several different places of entertainment over in the Old National area on the south side. However, I don't feel like it's been voted down every time I bring somebody or I express interest for any of the people who I share the most common like interest with, because of the stereotype of what the South Side of National has. And what I want to do is to do my part in changing that narrative. Everybody always dismisses it and says, well, that's just how Old Nat is, or that's just that area. But I feel like if given the opportunity, we can create a facelift in the same way that we are creating New South Hilton, I can help change that narrative. It's very difficult when I have my chapter or, you know, I'm talking to different sorors and I'm saying like, can we do a chapter celebration over here? And there's nowhere for young urban professionals to attend where we feel safe and we want an upscale environment and safe and training. We have to go downtown, we have to go to Buckhead, we have to go, you know, Midtown, Marietta, somewhere in the area, and I feel like we deserve that same thing in our area as well. Same thing with any type of dietary options. If we want to Uber eat something vegan or Uber eat something that is, you know, palatable, that's not fried, you know, we have to look towards Fayetteville or even Camp Creek or, you know, somewhere that is out of the area. And it's usually something that's for pickup, but it's not something that's right there in my backyard in my area. And my goal is to be able to provide that for our area because, like they always say, if you build it, they'll come. And if you provide that atmosphere for them to come out and do something more upscale, implement something nice, implement ballet for the South Side and like that, implement something that makes you feel like it's worth saving, then it'll be worth saving. That's all I have.
Thank you so much. Is there anyone here to speak for this case of staff?
No, there's no one speaking.
Is there anyone in opposed?
There is one in opposition. That is Michael Venable.
Okay.
first want to put everybody in a mindset. I think Chairman Reynolds eloquently put some pros together earlier in there, and I think it's appropriate that, you know, everybody sees that same vision. I can tow a car to an emission station, get a certificate, walk over to the tax office and get a tag. That's educational sense. That's your zoning policy. But because the car has no brakes and the heat and AC do not work, that does not mean you should drive it. That's public permission. That's common sense. That's your public participation. We can keep our zoning cheat sheets there in front of you, but don't let that cloud your common sense. This type of venue of hookahs would not be, is inappropriate for the area. When these type of entertainment venues locate in plaza buildings, the parking is grossly exasperating. You can look at that from St. James Live and other places, even on Old National, the plaza where you have the daiquiri bar, and those that every single spot of every vendor around it is overtaken by those cars. That's a total hardship to the adjacent entities. On your map, right beside this location is a family venue, a skating rink. The same way that we don't put bus stops beside liquor stores and we don't have daycares beside nightclubs. This is just inappropriate for the vision and development of the area. And that's the causality of the problems of the community. High rises are not going to fix that. We've never talked about having a full-fledged security operation at this location from evening to close. Because not to stereotype, but because of the actions and the things that happen along this corridor, there is nothing definitely put forward to say that that's not going to happen here. My thing is, like I said before, with the residential development, we have got to be more deliberate and smart on making sure that this community develops in a direction way that does not keep it in the same hole that it is. Hookah may be fine, but you can't put that, as look at the map, right beside subdivisions and family venues. And then for the location and the parking, not to have that appropriate to where the vendors beside it are just over exasperated with cars that come in. You know, I realize entertainment of that thing is okay for some, but at this location, it is just inappropriate.
So here's the thing. When it comes down to the parking, that was one of our main concerns, because of course we want as much parking as possible, because we want as many patrons as possible. The owner of that building owns the other businesses that are in that space, that are at 5550. He owns Conquest, he owns Cleaners, he owns my building, my location where I am. Those businesses are not operable during the proposed times of hours of operation, which eliminates any type of confusion in parking or whatever the case may be. That's also why we also wanted to implement valet, so that we can make that less of a headache, because it's not huge. We do have the allocated amount of parking spaces that are required. However, we want to make sure that our patrons feel comfortable and safe as well. So that was why we wanted to take this step above and implement something like valet, because that is also something that we utilized as a safety measure. Most times when people have a problem, they go to the court. You can't just go to your car. That's one. In addition to that, when it comes down to daycares and things like that not being next to entertainment venues, that's 100% false, because Jerome Road has a daycare right there on the other side of grown folks. 100% false. So unfortunately, I can't stand behind it, but I respectfully understand. And then his third point was what? Security, yes. Okay, so let's talk about it, because security is a big thing. And we have made sure to make sure we're in compliance with everything that's according to the ordinance for entertainment venues, which includes a full ramification of the cameras throughout the building. We are literally kind of on the first output across the street from South Fulton Police Department. I don't feel like we get any safer than that. They can step outside and see us. Like we are directly across the street from South Fulton Police Department. It's their job to do their job, simple and plain. In addition to that, we already know that if you are going to have an entertainment venue, the ordinance requires us to have a security officer present by the time our doors open. Technically, you have to have 1% food and alcohol. By the time 9 o'clock hits, I believe it's either 9 or 10 p.m., you're required to have 2, according to however large your space is. So as far as having security, that's no problem at all. If you have one that you would like to recommend, I'm open to that as well. But as far as security, cameras, valet, and police, if there's anything additional that you all would like to tell us to consider, or more than what we do that as well. But security is not an issue, safety is not an issue. As far as the skate rink, that's literally right behind us, you've seen it on camera. Prior to us turning this into a lounge, it was initially around the tire shop. We catch them and they have way more drama than what we see, which is why we put the age proposal on our venue, which is 25 and up, so that we can control our crowd. We are targeting people who actually have something to lose, who are not bringing the negativity to our area. Again, we are targeting young urban professionals, not just whoever want to come hang out. There's several places on Old National for that. Again, we're changing the narrative.
Thank you so much. Steph, how much time allowed?
There is 455 left in favor and 603 left in opposition.
If you have to speak again in opposition.
Just one quick thing. Just because something exists does not mean it's wrong. And I'm glad that was brought up. You should never have daycare beside nightclubs. We should never have liquor stores and things beside residential communities where there are children and influential and vulnerable entities at. That's the problem with this card. It's a hodgepodge of some of everything. The solid basis for a good community are the ones who physically reside there and come to these meetings. If you look at, you may see some others here when they have different cases of things like that. The one that just left, the one, on the road. You had solid homeowners in here that stood up for the viability of their community. That's what I'm saying. There's got to be some sort of entity and gumption to make sure the community stays stable and that things that can cause the community to go the other way. That's your real change. And over-exasperation of nothing but entertainment does not have balance the same way that you need fruits and vegetables and meats and proteins. You can over-exasperate yourself with pawn shops, nightclubs, churches, another liquor store, gas stations. We've got to cut this out. And no respect against you, but we over-exasperate ourselves in what area for the same way we talk about barber and beauty shops. When there are too many within one area, you got to put a stop to it. And that's what I'm saying. We need to grow in a different manner, to change the narrative and to make sure that we progress in a manner that is going to make this area competitive with all the other districts in this city.
Sure.
to
Absolutely. Old National is an entertainment district. That is the design, that is the point of new hotels. It is going to be increasing of the hotel, motel tax. We are literally 7 minutes away from the airport. It's a high tourist attraction area. Why would we not increase the valuability of South Fulton? Everybody wants South Fulton to be the go-to city. It's the comparison because it's the equally largest city compared to, or the second largest city in Georgia, right behind Atlanta. If we want to bring vitality to the city, we have to bring what the people want. Now, I'm not saying that means to deter away from what the community needs, but I am saying that if it's perfectly zoned as a C2, that means it's commercial. If you're trying to have hotels and you now, I just saw the other day, I rode down the street and they're breaking down for the sidewalks. They're increasing the walkability of it because they know what's coming. I live over there in District 6. I live in the newly built Oaks. Literally in my lease, it states that my rent is going to increase every year because of the potential of the hotels and everything they're phenomenal. When I first moved over there, it was $180 to purchase the townhome. Now it's over $200,000. The investment is there. The city of South Fulton is trying to make the investment. People are coming to spend the money. All I'm saying is if we're going to build it, if we're going to create the hotel anyway, if we're going to create the storefronts, if we're creating high rises, we actually are opening a green space on Old National that was part of the groundbreaking over with Nancy Park. We're opening up our parks again. There's plenty of opportunity for vitality and for green spaces for children. Like, I'm not taking away from anything, I'm only enhancing. So that's it.
this is a motion to close public comment.
So moved.
Second. Move in second. For discussion. Any none, staff, close the floor.
Mr. Rodney Hackett.
Aye.
Mr. Keith Terry.
Aye.
Reverend Shannon Jones.
Aye.
Mr. Matt Walter. Aye. Ms. Rachel Williams. Aye. Ms. Paulette Devon. Ms. Tamika Weatherly.
We now close any questions. Free the party from the board.
Yes, sir. I think what I hear is two people who greatly believe in that community. And I think what I would suggest is maybe we defer and give them time to come together. Because I think both of you guys have that community at heart, and you're just coming from two different perspectives. And maybe there's a middle ground that you could come to. Because I would love to see that both sides are represented in what's going to be the new Old National. And I don't think it benefits the city to push one and not the other. So I would really be for a deferral to see if they can get together and come to some sort of agreement of what they can both do.
Any other comment by the board?
I have a quick question. Ms. Phillips, what will be the hours of operation?
We're looking to open at 6 p.m. and close by 1 a.m.
7 days a week?
No, ma'am. Wednesday through Sunday.
Chair recognizes Representative Jones.
You indicated that you would begin the age of 25.
Yes, sir.
Is that legal?
It is.
How would you do that? Based on what?
So,
You're serving alcohol.
Mhm.
So that's 21.
correct. But it is at the owner's discretion to be able to service their patrons that they prefer. Grown folks has the age of 30. It's just the crowd that you prefer to attract.
I'm sorry, I'm prepared from Mr. Reeves. And so I've never heard that before.
There's a lot of locations that actually start parenting demographic and make sure that they are.
Just to follow up on that, so the difference between target and marketing to a specific audience and being able to say, oh, to an audience coming to your door. So you're saying that you can literally physically discriminate by age.
I don't want to say that I'm discriminating by age. I'm saying that people who I'm targeting are people who are.
If I'm 21 years old, I come to the door, you don't let me in. Based on my age and I'm of legal drinking Now, there are, establishments that you can't bring tennis shoes, can't tennis shoes. But some of those establishments will give you a jacket, will give you,
I'd like to ask the question, what's the capacity? And, if the facility will hold?
125.
In the parking?
The parking, second, have parking in the back as well of our building. So we have about 50 parking spaces.
You say this was located by the skating rink?
It's directly in front of the skater.
on which side?
On the left side, it's on the end. So the entrance that takes you into the skater rink, my building is right down there.
Is it like a cleaners and then?
It's the complex auto cleaners and then.
There's only one entrance to that facility.
Say again, I'm
How
sorry.
many entrances?
Two.
Is it two?
Can you be able to do valet? Can you just give us a picture of your business, like, just you paint the picture? Hookah, got a bar, got this dancing.
Not necessarily dancing. So the goal is to have something more sit down, nice background music, but not too loud to where I have to yell across the table to convert it to whatever it is that I'm out. If I wanted to have a girls' night out, birthday celebration, it creates a social trendy space. There will be a social media space where people can take pictures, I was here type of thing. We also want to sell exclusive merchandise, so something that will say like, I was exclusive in South Fulton, or I survived exclusive, something of that nature. But it's more of a trendy space, more socially aesthetic, different type of food options. We want to introduce like little lobster bisque over here and personal charcuterie and things like that. We don't want to do the typical thing. So this is currently what the space looks like on the outside. Like it's like the signs and then
Your business exit to the group?
yes,
Those are the type of cars you're gonna try to put in the parking lot.
those are the questions.
But that's what you're talking about.
Yes.
I have a question.
That's what I'm.
Have you calculated how away from the police station?
100%, and I think it's necessary.
Okay, so how far?
I am less than 500 feet away from the police station. But when I say I'm directly across the street from the police station,
I know where you're at, but I want to know how the research is set out exactly this amount from point to point.
I don't have it in front of me. I'm a just trying to get them for you.
So this, I really think the commission opinion. I think you offer. I'm not trying to shut down. Yeah, I'm just gonna say this, I think he offered a really tangible solution. I think that there's sometimes there's also a generational thing. I was the youngest in the family now. Got 30 nieces and nephews. And I feel like Archie Bunker in a little now. But I do kind of see that vision. I thought it was important to see what your target market would be, what the vision would be. And what you're going after. I think that is something that you all should really have some discussion around.
It sounds like to me you would put a motion on the floor.
I like to share something.
Well, I think that was one commissioner.
Can you see it?
Yeah, not at all. I just wondered with your hours, your business hours, Wednesday through Saturday, 6 p.m. to 1 a.m. What will happen during the other half of the week? Will it just be closed or?
Yes, ma'am. Monday and Tuesdays, in my experience in previous establishments, it's best to have some sort of a paperwork day and to not overwork or exhaust your staff.
Oh, you said, okay, so it's Wednesday through Sunday. Gotcha. Okay. Happy. Thank you.
There was a lot of conversations today about public input, residents' input, and that is all very important. We do have to remember that our consideration has to be based on standards and not necessarily personal opinion. So for everybody, public included, Just make sure we hear our reasoning or our arguments so to speak, based on what the standards are.
I do agree, sir, that definitely has to even go further with the commission, with the board. Yes, that.
Just a point of information, I wanted to point out that from a scheduling standpoint, just so you have all of the details, with the city council's recess this summer, we would not be able to have a June planning commission meeting, so this would go to, if a deferral event occurs, it would go to July planning commission and August city council if it was not for that.
Would that be say council would get this even if it moved forward until July?
They would get it in June if it moved forward tonight.
Well, I thought they were gonna have a meeting.
They're having a special zoning meeting.
If there are no more comments or questions?
Sure, the staff recommendations to approve.
Staff recommendation.
But I'm saying.
Is there a motion to approve?
Yes, sir. I move to recommend approval to request a special permit to allow 5550 Old National Highway.
Is there a second? Moved and second, any further discussion? Hearing none, staff, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Rotten Hadley.
Aye.
Mr. Perry.
Nay.
Reverend.
Aye.
Mr. Nye Walker.
Aye.
Ms. Rachel Williams. Ms. Paulette Devon. Ms. Tamika Weatherly. Chairman, that motion passes.
Thank you so much, staff, call the next case.
There is no next case.
I say.
Rotten Hadley. Keith Harris. James Jones. Nye Walker. Rachel Williams. Paulette Devon. Tamika Weatherly. That meeting is adjourned.
Yeah, I'm not that one. All right, I'll see y'all.
Yeah.